Chapter 387 Heading to the Wilderness Competition. At the same time, Nangong Chen's eyes were a little dazed, and his pupils flickered. Ding, host, please go to the wilderness competition to sign in. The long-lost system prompt sound rang in his mind. Nangong Chen took a deep breath and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. He was looking forward to the first sign-in starting point after the immortal hidden abyss. Adding to that the rumor about the human emperor's reincarnation disc his father had just mentioned, it seems that there's a reason why I have to go to this wild competition. At this moment, Lan Mo in the audience was a little disheartened. He didn't expect that under the condition of giving up the key to the wilderness, the other party would remain unmoved. He couldn't help but laugh at himself about this. My ancestor, look, the treasure that this family has guarded for generations is nothing more than scrap metal in the eyes of others. The beautiful eyes of the girl beside him also became increasingly dim. Just when the two thought that nothing was accomplished and wanted to leave with regret, that calm and cold voice suddenly sounded. You trust me so much that you think I can stand out among those quasi-saints. Nangong Chen expressed his final doubts. If he himself was from a family participating in the wilderness competition, the external aid he would seek would certainly be of the highest level of cultivation, and a strong person above the quasi-saint level would naturally be the best choice. And the other party came all the way here just to let a genius like himself, a god king, participate in such a competition. This inexplicable trust made him feel a little strange. He didn't believe that his true strength could be transmitted to the westernmost part of Sankara. Lan Mo quickly raised his head. A spark of hope ignited in his eyes. The prince's bravery that I saw in Chu City that day was astonishing. I concluded that you are the one our Wuling clan is looking for. Yes, Dad and brother both want you to help us. Lan Xian also spoke softly, her voice very sweet. Qing Yu, who was standing by, also spoke up, nervously saying, Prince, we can also testify that they were indeed inside Chu City that day. Upon hearing this, Nangong Chen nodded slightly and roughly understood the situation. So it was because he saw the power unleashed by the human emperor sword that he used that day. He thought for a moment, then shook his head and said calmly, The me you saw that day was me unleashing the power of the treasure. It wasn't a real me. The treasure consumes a lot of energy. I won't be using it for you in this wilderness competition. He would not use the human emperor sword unless he had no other choice. A flash of horror flashed across Lan Mo's eyes, and then he smiled slightly, suppressing his shock, and said, It's okay, Prince, just do your best. We believe in you. Although he had some guesses, he couldn't help but be shocked when he heard Nangong Chen admit it himself. It turned out that there really was such a heaven-defying treasure in the world that could surpass the three realms. Is this the foundation of the divine dynasty? He thought to himself that he was even more wary of the terrifying force before him. Although Lan Xian didn't say anything, her slightly opened red lips revealed her current mood. Okay, in that case, let's go. Nangong Chen nodded slightly and said calmly. As soon as these words were spoken, Nangong Chen staggered. He did not expect Nangong Chen to be so decisive and set off as soon as he recovered. Lan Mo and Lan Xian were extremely excited. After looking at each other, they saw joy in each other's eyes. Great! The other party finally agreed. Chapter 388 Zhu Ying follows and sets off. Lan Mo immediately took out a storage ring and handed it to Nangong Chen, saying respectfully, Prince, this is the reward from our Wuling clan. I hope you'll take a look at it. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, and a spiritual sense swept through the storage ring, where 5,000 fairy crystals and 5 holy medicines were lying neatly. He didn't cheat on anything, so he was considered sensible. He collected them all and looked at the old man with the broken arm. Lead the way, let's go. Okay. Lan Mo smiled brightly, bowed respectfully to Nangong Chen, then turned and left with Lan Xian. Nangong Chen stood up and whispered to the bewildered Qing Yu and the other two, If you have nothing to do these days, you can stay in the Divine Dynasty. The situation outside is not peaceful. The Divine Dynasty is rich in spiritual energy, which will also be beneficial to your cultivation. By the way, if you want to go to the various universities, you can pass on my oral instructions and enter directly without taking the exam. He knew that these two people came to him for refuge, so he naturally had to take care of them. Thinking of this, he glanced at Nangong Chen and signaled him to ask someone to do these things later. Nangong Chen felt helpless. This kid was becoming more and more lawless. He even opened a back door in front of him, but he nodded anyway. Good. Qing Yu and Qing Fan nodded flatteredly, with shock flashing in their eyes. You should know that a few days ago they were still worried about whether they could live in the Divine Dynasty because the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty is different from other places. Outsiders are only allowed to stay here for 15 days. After 15 days, if they do not have proof of identity, they will be deported. They didn't expect that the other party could solve the problem with just one sentence, and even let them choose the school they want. In the past few days, they have seen too many young people who want to join the various universities in the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty, but they all retreat regretfully due to the extremely high standards. And the other party actually let them choose the school at will. This made them feel as if they were suddenly hit by an opportunity. "Excuse me." Soon, Nangong Chen bowed, and with an ethereal air and snow-white clothes fluttering, he walked away. Looking at this back, Qing Fan's eyes were filled with passion, which was an incomparable admiration. He also wanted to become a strong man like Nangong Chen, decisive and free and easy. There was a hint of loneliness in Qingyu's beautiful eyes. She didn't expect that the other party would leave just after they met, and she didn't know when they would meet again. At the same time, outside the Divine Dynasty Palace, did that person really say that I could follow him? Zhu Ying took a deep breath and stood tall and graceful in a black and gold phoenix tail skirt, dignified and elegant, looking at the golden-armored general in front of her. Her black hair was piled high, her golden phoenix hairpins sparkled, her face was impeccably delicate, and just standing there, she was like a bright moon breaking through the clouds, shining in the dark night. Outside the temple, various dignitaries were coming and going. When they caught sight of the girl, they were all startled for a moment, with surprise in their eyes. The girl's voice was filled with disbelief. The tall, middle-aged man in golden armor nodded, smiled kindly, and said, "Yes, His Majesty said that you can just wait here, and the prince will come later." Zhu Ying nodded slightly, her beautiful face shining with luster. She seemed as calm as water, but in fact her heart was already surging. After staying in the Divine Dynasty for more than 20 days, the other party still had no reply. She thought that the other party was deliberately leaving her alone or was testing her. There are even rumors circulating in Xintian territory recently that people with double pupils may encounter unexpected misfortunes. Now it seems that since the other party has given such an answer, it proves that everything is as before and the other party is fine. During this period of time, the other party should not be deliberately leaving him alone and may be recovering from his injuries. Soon, Zhu Ying sorted out the logic and breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he's all right, not to mention that he saved my grandfather's life, or that he possessed the formation intent that he possessed due to his extremely high talent, the fact that he's all right is a blessing for the human race, and it's worth celebrating. Thinking that the other party would meet her soon, Zhu Ying couldn't help feeling a little nervous. Although she knew the other party, whether the other party knew her or what his attitude towards her was another matter. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but look at her reflection in the Golden Palace door. She raised her jade fingers and adjusted her beautiful makeup until everything was perfect. At this moment, if the followers of Tianjin Holy Land saw such a scene, their faith in Taoism would probably be shattered. Not long after, a figure in snow-white clothes slowly walked out from the magnificent palace gate. Chapter 389. Emohan comes out of retreat, the Black Wind Clan's humiliation. Central China, Chu City. Outside a martial arts hall. Look at how poor you are. I'm not bad at all for letting you stay here for half a day without any money, and you still want to pretend to be dead and stay here. I tell you, no way. Get out of here right now. The middle-aged woman looked at the young man in black tights in front of her with disgust on her face. She spat and was about to close the door. You. After hearing this, Emohan's face changed slightly. His blood rushed up, and he raised his finger, as if he wanted to say something. But before he could say anything, the door slammed shut. It's just a few days of leaving, you shrew. How stingy. You act like staying in that advanced training room for a few days will kill you. Seeing this, Emohan could only turn his head away, muttering a few words with a somewhat dissatisfied look on his face. There's a lot of dust on his black boxing suit, and it was obvious that he had been thrown out of the martial arts gym many times. When the people around saw this scene, they pointed at him and looked at him with contempt. If you don't have money, then you don't have money. You're leaving a few days later. Don't you know that the training array in the martial arts hall is very expensive? If you want to get it for free, just say so. Yeah, it seems like this isn't the first time this kid has done this. The last time I saw him at the martial arts gym in the West, he was also kicked out by the people there. Their faces were extremely gloomy. Hey, now that you mention it, I seem to have some impression of him. Could he be the talent who spent 5,000 spirit stones to travel all over the Chuqing Martial Arts Hall in 2 months? Yes, it's him. The elementary cultivation array requires 500 spirit stones a day to run, and this guy only has 5,000 spirit stones in total, which is only enough for him for 10 days. But he managed to stay in several martial arts halls for 2 months to make money, and he's lucky he didn't get beaten. Fuck, how can someone be so shameless? Looking at him, he seems like a decent human being, but how come he can't even afford this little amount of spirit stones and still resorts to these crooked methods? Who knows? We can only judge a person by their appearance, but not by their true heart. Who knows, maybe it's some demonic lackey who has infiltrated. Emohan's face turned black. He didn't expect that his heroic deeds were known to these people. Immediately, he clenched his 5 fingers, snorted coldly, and the aura of a powerful late-stage person burst out. Did he really think that he could stay in there for so long with 5,000 spirit stones, just because of his thick skin? Besides, how could a cultivator like them, a mere ant, discuss such matters as mine, a great and powerful cultivator? When the people around felt this breath, their faces suddenly changed slightly, and there was a flash of fear in their eyes. He's actually in the late stage of the great power realm. How is that possible? Is there such a genius in Chu City? So what if he's a genius? He's still a scum. I saw the word Mo on his waist, and I can tell he's not from our Zhong Shinzhou family. Humph, he's just a fox relying on the power of the tiger. However, some people expressed disdain and sneered. That's right, this boy has really brought shame to our Xintian territories Tianjiao. Not to mention that one, just the Tianjiao who returned from the immortal treasures. Which one of them is not a dragon and phoenix among men? Which one would do such a thing? Yeah, and the city guard are nearby. Do you think this bastard is going to attack? The monks from all directions sneered. After saying this, Emohan gritted his teeth and wanted to take action immediately, but he felt several cold gazes coming from not far away. He turned around and found that it was the armored city guard who was looking at him coldly. It seemed that as long as he made a move, the big knife at the opponent's waist would be pulled out instantly. Well, when I achieve mastery of my magical powers, I'll definitely wipe out all of you villains. Just wait for me. Seeing this, Emohan had no choice but to give up. He took a deep breath, glanced coldly at everyone present, and left without looking back. He has more important things to do, and he has not forgotten the 3-year agreement he made. Now, with the help of the training in the martial arts hall in the past few months, he has successfully cultivated the void evolution technique to perfection, and his cultivation has reached the late stage of the great power realm. He has enough strength to avenge his previous shame. Gu Mingling, I will return all the humiliation you inflicted on me in half a month to you, without missing a single detail. Emohan seemed to have thought of something, clenched his fists, and his eyes flashed with coldness. Balian, analyze the odds of winning between me and Gu Mingling. He gave an order in his mind. Yes, accompanied by a cold female voice. After a few breaths, the voice sounded again. 90% winning rate. After hearing this, Emohan was delighted and raised the corners of his mouth, revealing a wicked smile. Now everything is definitely stable. He doesn't believe that there will be any accidents during this trip to the Holy Land in the north. He wanted to drag the girl who had rejected him off the altar in front of countless people and let her see how poor her vision was. Even though the other party had never humiliated him and had compensated him with a lot of cultivation resources, he still did not show any mercy and even thought that the other party's actions were a disguised humiliation of him. Now that he has gained the upper hand, he will make the other party pay the price. Of course, now that the 3-year agreement has been confirmed, he has something more important to do now, which is to find out about the goddess he saw that day. He had not forgotten the stunning glimpse of the Ice Phoenix goddess that day when the Immortal Treasure meeting was held, which left a deep impression on him. He had never seen such a beautiful woman before. She seemed as if she was carefully carved by God, so beautiful that it was breathtaking. Just one glance, and he had a strong desire to get the other person. Likewise, the icy gaze of the man in the snow-covered clothes was also unforgettable to him. He looked so high and mighty, with an ethereal air, as if a banished immortal had returned to the world. Thinking of this, his heart tightened and he murmured, I remember that day. He spoke arrogantly in the immortal treasure, causing dissatisfaction among the geniuses of other domains. Now, several months have passed, and the immortal treasure has long ended. I believe he must have died in the immortal treasure. If that's the case, then that white-haired beauty is all alone, right? When my 3-year agreement is over, I'll go look for her. I, M.O. Fan, must have this beauty. There was an evil fire flashing in M.O. Fan's eyes, as if he had thought of something, and he showed an obscene smile. Ever since his talent was restored when he was a child, he has been singing all the way, as if he was the son of destiny. He kills gods and Buddhas who stand in his way. He has stepped on countless geniuses' heads along the way. Even the women who looked down on him at first gradually succumbed to his personal charm. He believed that this time would not be a surprise. Soon, he asked around. This place was in central Shenzhou, so it was not difficult to get the latest news. After inquiring, Emohan's face suddenly stiffened. What did he hear? The man in white he saw that day not only did not die, but also won the Immortal Treasure Championship and ranked first on the Myriad Worlds list. Moreover, on his way out, he killed several saints and severely damaged the beings above the saints. If he hadn't asked many people, he would have thought that he hadn't woken up from his cultivation yet. This is the other party, even a fucking human? and Mo Han cursed in his heart. This is too scary. Among the geniuses of the same generation, you told me that the other party can already fight against the saint? How should I fight like this? Even though those people said that the man in white had used his most precious treasure to unleash such combat power, he still felt it was too outrageous. Fortunately, he learned a good news. That is, the other party disappeared after the battle in Xinzong and has not appeared for a long time. And Mo Han heaved a sigh of relief, sneered, and said, "It seems he was seriously injured in that battle, and perhaps even damaged his very foundation. It's impossible for him to recover in such a short time. This gives me a great opportunity. During this period, I will emerge from nowhere, overshadow him, become the #1 genius of my generation, and transfer all the momentum he has created to me." He clenched his fists, his face full of confidence. On the other side, a desolate land. Within my spiritual clan. "Old friend, I haven't seen you for a long time. I miss you so much." Inside the mansion, the Black Wind clan's patriarch sat in the guest seat, raised the teacup in his hand, and said with a smile. Beside him were many members of the Black Wind clan, including He Sheng, the young master of the Black Wind clan. On the main seat opposite were seated the high-ranking members of the Wuling clan. At this moment, the faces of everyone in the Wuling clan were extremely gloomy. No one expected that the Black Wind clan, who had always been at odds with them, would visit them at this critical juncture. When a weasel pays a New Year's greeting to a chicken, it must have bad intentions. What's more, the conflict between them and the Black Wind clan is not a simple one, but a feud that has accumulated over time. Decades ago, after the other party won the key of the wilderness from their Wuling clan in the wilderness competition, they have been secretly suppressing their Wuling clan. From the competition among the younger generations to the encirclement and suppression between clans, every conflict is accompanied by blood and tears. Until now, the territory of their Wuling tribe has shrunk from a large area to 1/10 of its original size. The resources are more than 100 times less, which is why the Wuling clan has always been in decline. Even after that, they never defeated the Black Wind clan in the subsequent wilderness competitions. It would be more accurate to say that they failed to defeat the Black Wind clan rather than the foreign aid they invited. They were defeated miserably every time. This also made the Wuling clan very angry. You know, in the original wilderness competition, the 4 major families had a common rule that no external aid could be invited. Who would have thought that it was their Black Wind clan and the Tianyuan clan that joined forces to break this rule? At the main table, Lan Linchuan, the chief of the Wuling tribe, raised his teacup in annoyance and retaliated. "Heidi, what are you doing in our tribe? Are you trying to stir up trouble again?" Lan Linchuan's eyes flashed with coldness, and he said in a deep voice, "This place belongs to their Wuling clan. Are they really not afraid of never coming back? Provoking trouble? I wouldn't dare. It's just that I haven't seen an old friend for a long time. Since it's the time for the wilderness competition, I came to visit," Head said with a smile. The leader of the Black Wind clan is a middle-aged man with dark skin. There's a scar running through his eyebrows. His eyes are like cold lightning, and he looks very fierce. "Who is that?" Lan Linchuan ignored him and fixed his gaze on the old man in a jade robe behind him, who had sharp eyes and an unusual aura. He could see that the people of the Black Wind clan were very respectful towards the old man, and he was probably sure that this person must be of extraordinary status. After saying this, Head slapped his head and then said with some self-blame, "Oh, I forgot to introduce you. This is Senior Xiang Kunlun, the Grand Elder of the Yuxiao Sword Sect." After saying that, the old man in jade robe raised his eyes and glanced at Lan Linchuan nonchalantly. Lan Linchuan's pupils suddenly shrank. With just one glance, he could feel the boundless sword intent interweaving above his head, and the chill spread all around. This person was definitely stronger than he had imagined. He even felt that if he fought with him, he might not be able to withstand a single blow. Is this the confidence that the other party has in coming here this time? Lan Linchuan thought to himself, clenched his fingers slightly, and breathed a little faster. What shocked him even more was that they were all just quasi-saints, but the gap between them was like an insurmountable chasm. It seems that the rumors from the outside world that Xiang Kunlun is the #1 person under the saint are not false. Then, after a few moments of silence, he bowed towards Xiang Kunlun and said, "Greetings, fellow Taoist Xiang." When these words were spoken, everyone in the Wuling clan was a little shocked. Why would the clan leader salute an outsider cultivator? However, Xiang Kunlun did not respond to Lan Linchuan, but just nodded slightly, his eyes full of arrogance. When Heidi saw this scene, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, as if he had expected it. Then he said, "Senior Xiang is a little tired after all this journey. I hope fellow Taoist Lan can understand." After he finished speaking, Lan Linchuan clenched his fingers and could only put his hands down expressionlessly without much reaction. How could such a powerful being feel tired after a short distance? Anyone with a discerning eye could see that this was a blatant humiliation. Lan Jia, who was standing nearby, couldn't stand seeing her father being treated like this and angrily asked, "What do you mean?" But who would have thought that Lan Linchuan would scold him and slap his raised finger down? "Lan Jia, don't be rude." Lan Jia's voice was interrupted. He looked at Lan Linchuan with some confusion. When he saw the red eyes staring at him, he could only remain silent. Although the voice stopped, Xiang Kunlun still heard it. He narrowed his slender eyebrows, waved his sleeves, and slapped down. Boom! The power exploded instantly, and Lan Jia was knocked back by this terrifying force, hitting the wall heavily, spitting blood from his mouth, and his face turned pale. The expressions of the Wuling people changed. No one expected that the other party would suddenly attack. Lan Jia! Lan Linchuan's pupils shrank, and he flashed to Lan Linchuan's side, reached out to check his condition, and his face instantly darkened. With this palm strike, his veins were severed, his spiritual sea was shattered, and sword energy swirled in his body. Although his life was not in danger, he would need at least 10 years of recuperation to recover. "Sir, what do you mean?" Lan Linchuan gritted his teeth and spoke each word. "You have no respect for your elders. I will punish you slightly and discipline you on behalf of my fellow Taoist." Xiang Kunlun said lightly, his words full of indifference, as if he was casually crushing an ant to death. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the Wuling tribe became furious and wanted to take action immediately. But the Black Wind clan was not to be trifled with. They immediately surrounded them with cold eyes and fierce aura. They were not afraid of the other side at all, even though they were in the minority. Chapter 390, If you don't understand, just ask me. At this moment, Head also came out with a smile to smooth things over and said, "It's all just a minor misunderstanding. We are from a wild family with a friendship of tens of thousands of years. Why should we be so hostile? Senior Xiang is just a person who values talent and is only imposing a minor punishment. He has no ill intentions." What he meant was that if Xiang Kunlun was serious, there was no way Lan Jia could still be alive. That it hurts. On the other side, Lan Jia was pale, holding her stomach, bleeding, and said weakly. The sword energy in his body was tormenting him all the time, as if someone was holding a knife and scraping his flesh one by one. Lan Linchuan's eyes flushed red when he saw this scene. He quickly took out a healing pill and put it into his mouth, comforting him in a trembling voice. "Hold on, kid." Seeing his child injured so seriously, he felt heartbroken. Naked murderous intent flashed in his eyes, and for a moment, he even wanted to chop off Xiang Kunlun's head. But he held back. He knew that Lan Imo was not here. If he took action today, their Wuling clan would be destroyed. There was a flash of surprise in Hyde's eyes. He didn't expect that the other party would not take action. TSK, this is not like Lan Linchuan. He shook his head, took out a few pills from somewhere, and said with a smile, "Nephew Lan is lucky and has a long life, so he will be fine. Senior Xiang has also restrained his strength. These pills will be your compensation." Lan Linchuan looked at the dull and rotten pills, clenched his fingers, and could only put them away silently. "Chief." On the other side, a few people from the Wuling tribe couldn't help it and wanted to take action. But no one moved until Lan Linchuan spoke. Lan Linchuan ignored them, but stared straight at Heidi and said calmly, "I visited you. Is there anything else? If not, go back early. After all, the mountains are high and the roads are dark. I'm afraid of any accidents. Don't worry about that, Patriarch Lan. I came here for another matter." Head waved his hand and smiled. Then he waved his hand back. A young man in purple clothes came up. He had a white silk scarf tied on his forehead, and there seemed to be an evil spirit in his facial features. His face was exaggerated, and his breath was unstable, like a person who often indulged in lust. "This person is Hyde's son, Heisheng." I saw Heidi smiled and said loudly, "My son has become a disciple of Senior Xiang and has a bright future ahead of him. But before that, he begged me earnestly for something. As a father, I naturally couldn't bear to see him sad. My son has been obsessed with your daughter for a long time. I wonder if they can marry and strengthen the bond between our two families." After these words were spoken, the expressions of everyone in the Lan family changed drastically. No one expected that the other party's ultimate goal was Lan Xin. What was even more unexpected was that Heisheng, a playboy, could actually become a disciple of that powerful man. Lan Linchuan sneered, looked directly at Heisheng, and said in a deep voice, "You want to marry my daughter?" The other party was notorious. Everyone within 100 miles knew that Heisheng relied on his status as the young master of the Black Wind clan to be extremely promiscuous and often raped young women from all clans. No. Heisheng shook his head, and then, in front of everyone, he smiled and said, "I am Senior Xiang's disciple, and I will become a quasi-saint in the future. How can I possibly marry your mediocre daughter?" Of course I will take her as a concubine. As soon as these words were spoken, the people of the Wuling tribe became extremely furious. Their eyes were red, and they wished they could cut Heisheng into pieces. He actually wants to take the daughter of their clan leader as a concubine. What does the other party think of our Ling clan? You little bastard, this is your Uncle Lan's daughter, and you don't even want to marry her? Then I pretended to be angry and shouted, Father, I am Senior Xiang's disciple, and I have a promising future. Even though I am taking a concubine, I will still show my true feelings to Sister Lan Xin, and I will never slack off. Heisheng felt a little aggrieved, and then said sincerely. Everyone could see from these words that the two of them were clearly acting in cahoots. Alas, there's really nothing I can do with you. Heidi held his forehead with his hand, seeming a little helpless, and then looked at Lan Linchuan. My daughter has a pure heart, and the heavens can see it. It is absolutely true. If Lan Xin comes to our Black Wind clan in the future, I will supervise her and will definitely not let her suffer any harm. I wonder what Brother Lan thinks? After all, we are old acquaintances, so you can rest assured about this. Lan Linchuan laughed out of anger. What else could he do? Was he really going to marry his daughter to this little beast? Seeing that he remained silent, Head continued. I know that the strongest members of your clan are also participating in this wilderness competition, but with this senior here, I have to say that there is little hope. After saying that, he looked at Xiang Kunlun with some pride and continued earnestly. If our two families become relatives, then apart from anything else, I can at most give you some leeway in our wilderness competition or even hand over the wilderness key to you later. That's not impossible. If our two families join forces, we won't be able to run rampant in this desolate land. Then, my dear brother, you could just follow our Black Wind clan and eat meat. Lan Linchuan remained silent. He knew that if he really agreed to the other party, he would be pushing the entire Wuling clan into the abyss, like a sheep walking into the tiger's mouth. Seeing that he was still silent, a hint of disdain appeared in Hyde's eyes. He put away his smile and said calmly, I've already said all the good things to you. Don't blame me for not being friendly with you later. After this wilderness competition, I hope you can be more sensible. I'll give you some time to think about it. Let's go. After these words were spoken, the Black Wind clan members left one after another. Before leaving, Heisheng mouthed a message to Lan Jia in an extremely arrogant manner. Just wait for your sister to be killed by me. Seeing this, Lan Jia spat out another mouthful of blood and stared at him intently, her eyes bloodshot and full of unwillingness, as if she wanted to bite off a piece of his flesh. After the mansion was completely quiet, Lan Linchuan slumped to the ground, staring at the sky with lifeless eyes, not knowing what to do. Seeing this, the other tribesmen also fell silent, and the atmosphere was extremely depressing. Dad, we still have hope. If Grandpa and the others succeed, and we invite that person over, we can turn the situation around. After a long time, Lan Jia seemed to have thought of something and said weakly. Hearing this, Lan Linchuan's eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, if that person comes, there will be hope. But then, he fell into deep worry. Will the other party really come? The next day, in eastern Shenzhou, someone saw a blazing flame passing over the Tianyuan dynasty, as if burning the void, causing many people to be amazed. Some people also saw the white jade chariot flash by, which made many people wonder if that person had been born. But soon, those people shook their heads and denied it. Not to mention that the Divine Dynasty has not released any information about that person, but judging from the battle in Chu City that day, the consumption must have been huge. Even if he was recuperating, it would be impossible for him to be born so quickly. They were more inclined to believe that it might be a great figure from the Divine Dynasty who had just appeared, but he was using a red dragon to pull the card. What's more, the direction the red dragon was heading was indeed the west, which had been gaining popularity recently. It couldn't possibly be that person coming out to participate in the wilderness competition. It was simply a fantasy. The people on the street just sighed and dispersed soon. On the other side, in the white jade chariot, your purpose in following me is just to repay the favor and save your grandfather? Nangong Chen said lightly, his eyes like stars and his brows calm. Opposite him sat a beautiful woman, her black hair piled high, her face delicate, her eyes sparkling like stars, and she was wearing a black and gold phoenix tail skirt that looked extremely elegant. As the words fell, the jade feet under the skirt became a little flustered, and the black silk stockings flashed with a crystal luster as they swayed, so smooth that people couldn't help but play with them. Zhu Ying had not expected that this boy, who seemed younger than herself, was so mature in mind and would ask such a sharp question right away. But she was not too flustered. She was silent for a moment, and then said softly, repaying a favor is one reason, and the other is that my grandfather asked me to learn your formation. After hearing this, Nangong Chen raised his eyebrows slightly, with a ripple in his heart, and said lightly, learn my formation? I got to know you before I came here. You are the saint of the Heavenly Formation Holy Land, a genius that appears once in 10,000 years. You are born with the formation heart and have mastered the formation intention. Now you're only one step away from perfection. Logically speaking, I've never demonstrated my formation skills in front of you. How do you know I know formation skills? Or do you have ulterior motives in approaching me? His eyes gradually revealed a hint of coldness, and his double pupils were dim, making the atmosphere in the entire carriage become cold. Zhu Ying was a little nervous at first, but when she heard the second half of the boy's sentence, she was stunned, her beautiful eyes wide open. Huh, you don't know? She tilted her head. Know what? Nangong Chen frowned slightly, his eyes filled with suspicion. Seeing the boy like this, Zhu Ying couldn't help but chuckle, and the corners of her mouth slightly raised, outlining a bright smile. She knew that Nangong Chen must have misunderstood. He might not know that when they were in the immortal treasure, people from the outside world could see each other through the psychic mirror. Then she began to explain. In other words, you were able to see everything we did inside the immortal treasure? After a while, Nangong Chen said thoughtfully. He hadn't expected that the Chu family had such an ability to project themselves into the immortal treasure. Is this also the method left by Chu Wanli? Then, the pleasant voice sounded again. Of course. We even saw clearly the dishes you made in your free time during your first round of trials in Xinzong. Back then, I remember the chef at Zishan Pavilion praised you, saying your cooking skills were superb and beyond their reach, and that the dishes you made were even unheard of by them. I still remember that they even recorded your cooking techniques using a projection stone, saying they wanted to observe them carefully when they got back. Zhu Ying said slowly, with a gleam in her beautiful eyes and a slight smile on her lips. It must be said that when she saw those dishes, even her taste buds, which had been fasting for a long time, were aroused. Of course, this also indirectly reflects that the other person can really cook. Nangong Chen coughed lightly, seeming a little embarrassed. He didn't expect that they had discovered this, but these people were quite discerning. Yes, my skills have always been impeccable. Remember, ask Zuetian Pavilion to pay the apprenticeship fee later. He spoke aloud, not knowing to whom he was talking. Yes. The next moment, a sudden sound came from the spacious carriage. Seeing this, Zhu Ying's pupils shrank slightly. She didn't expect that there was someone else in such a quiet carriage. Judging from the trace of aura that just leaked out, he is definitely a terrifyingly powerful person. Then, she realized what Nangong Chen had just said. Let Zuetian Pavilion pay some apprenticeship fee? She looked at Nangong Chen with a strange expression. She didn't expect that the young man had such thoughts under his cold appearance. But just now, it seemed that the guard took it seriously. With the power behind him, it seemed that if he really asked the Zuetian Pavilion to pay, they would not dare to refuse. Thinking of this, Zhu Ying's mouth twitched. Chapter 391. Take a day off, thinking. Soon, silence fell inside the carriage. Zhu Ying remained silent, while Nangong Chen's eyes flickered as he pondered. It turns out that Xinzong's every move can be seen by the outside world. No wonder the other party came to him to learn the formation. But if that's the case, wouldn't others know about it too? For him, this has both advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage is that all his cards are exposed, while the advantage is that by showing them in this way, people who may have other thoughts about him will think twice. In that case, you will follow me for a while. I can also guide you on your shortcomings and formations. As for whether to leave or stay after that, it's up to you. I won't force you. As a reward, you must show me all the formations in your holy land. Nangong Chen said calmly. He would never force an unwilling person to follow him, because there was no need. No matter how outstanding the other person was, there was a possibility of betrayal. All the formations? Zhu Ying was a little surprised. How could such a being as this from the other side actually be interested in their formation? Of course, to be honest, I am the reincarnation of a great being from the Holy Land. I have just awakened and have some memory loss. If you can let me see it, I might be able to help you improve your formation. Nangong Chen said calmly, without any expression on his face. Zhu Ying's beautiful eyes were stunned, and her red lips were slightly parted. At this moment, she seemed to have figured everything out. No wonder the other party had such a terrifying talent. It turned out that her grandfather's guess that day was true. The other party was really the reincarnation of a powerful being from the upper realm. No wonder the other party wanted to observe the formation of their holy land. This, Zhu Ying was speechless for a moment before she opened her red lips and said, all the formation manuals are of great importance. I must ask the ancestor for permission before I can lend them out. After saying that, Zhu Ying took out her bare hands, and a light green jade plate appeared. She tapped her fingers lightly, and a divine thought was transmitted into it. After a few breaths, Zhu Ying nodded slightly, looked at Nangong Chen with a complicated look in her eyes, and said softly, the ancestor has given his permission. He also said that if you need any formation diagrams, just tell him and the Holy Land will satisfy you. After hearing this, Nangong Chen's eyes looked a little strange. Oh, this Tianjin patriarch is quite sensible. His biggest problem now is that he only has the Dao level formation intention, but no corresponding formation support. It is difficult to use the 9 Sky Star formation in actual combat. If he could learn all these formations, it would be a huge improvement for him. It's like when you're fighting with others, you can casually set up a killing formation, an illusion formation, or a defensive formation to make the opponent dizzy, and it is easy to fight against opponents of higher levels. However, correspondingly, his soul must be strong enough to provide high-intensity support. Not only that, the materials must also be fully prepared. Since the Holy Land is so generous, I cannot treat you unfairly. If you have any questions during this period, please feel free to ask me. Nangong Chen spoke, with a hint of satisfaction in his tone. It takes exactly 5 days to get to the wilderness, which is just the right time to learn the formation and digest some of the gains from the immortal treasure. Chapter 392, The Eve of the Competition. 4 days later, in the far west, the Cliff Mountain, which is famous for its dangers and steep roads, is the mountainous area connecting central China and the wilderness. In recent days, there's been a constant stream of people coming and going, and cultivators from various states have flocked to the scene. Among them, there are also some geniuses from major sects and famous figures from famous families who have come to see the scene. It can be said that the scene has reached its peak. It is conceivable how tempting this wilderness competition, which is held only once in who knows how many years, is to them. After all, judging from the previously announced list, this competition was destined to be very exciting. For example, Xiang Kunlun, the supreme elder of the Yuxiao sword sect who had not appeared for 1,000 years and was known as the #1 person under the saint, attracted many powerful people to come and watch. Most of them are people from Xiang Kunlun's era, and they all want to see what level Xiang Kunlun has reached now. Similarly, there is Yang Zhen, the elder of the Wanfale sect. Putting aside his identity as an elder of first-rate sect, Yang Zhen is considered a genius in central Shenzhou who became famous at a young age. He entered the realm of quasi-saint at the age of 2,000 and reached the peak of quasi-saint at the age of 3,000, becoming the youngest elder in the history of Wanfale sect. His talent was amazing, and he attracted a lot of attention. A saint once said that if Yang Zhen had not died in the future, he would have reached a height that his predecessors could hardly match. Now, as the youngest quasi-saint this time, Yang Zhen is fighting on the same stage with Xiang Kunlun, who is known as the invincible of the previous generation, which has ignited the enthusiasm of the entire wilderness competition. Even the older generation living deep in the mountains are willing to travel through mountains and rivers to come and see it. As for Su Rui, the elder of the Tianjin Holy Land, compared with the first two who have such a great background, he is rather unremarkable and few people talk about him. As for the Wuling tribe, which has not yet deployed any external aid, even a dog would shake its head when seeing it. Not to mention discussing it, very few people would even mention its name. They all understood that since no external aid was announced, the Wuling tribe would definitely send its own strong men to fight this time. They are not optimistic about this, nor do they mean that the strong ones in the wilderness are too weak. On the contrary, they still have some special skills. For example, in terms of physical body, compared with the cultivators of the same level in the 3 states, their physical body strength is nearly 5 times stronger, which is already a very terrifying concept. But unfortunately, although they have strong bodies, they are still at a great disadvantage compared to the strong men in the 3 states. After all, they only know how to use their bodies, while the strong men in the 3 states are more comprehensive and almighty. However, the fact that the Monghuang lineage had such powerful physiques did attract a lot of research at first, but in the end, all efforts were in vain. Some people speculated that it was because there was a huge secret in the Monghuang lineage. In short, this is why they are not optimistic about the strong people in the wilderness. Almost all the cultivators believe that the champion would be decided between Yang Zhen and Xiang Kunlun. No matter whether Yang Zhen or Xiang Kunlun wins the championship, everyone is looking forward to seeing how terrifying the other party's strength will be after breaking through to the saint level. By then, it will be of great help to the future development of the human race. This is also one of the reasons why so many people came to watch the wilderness competition in previous years. The final champion of the wilderness competition will determine the leader among the next generation of saints in Xintian domain. Judging from the development throughout history, this is very likely to be the case. At this moment, in the hall of our spiritual clan leader, Grandpa Lan and his men haven't returned yet. Not even a word has been sent back. Lan Linchuan kept wandering around above, looking very anxious. Suddenly, a hurried voice sounded from outside the door. A tribesman who was over half his age knelt on the ground and said stiffly, After these words were spoken, the hearts of the others present tightened. It's the last day now, and we've been gone for such a long time without any news. It's hard not to wonder if something happened along the way. Chapter 393 Mysterious Foreign Aid, Yuqiong. Lan Linchuan remained silent, his brows furrowed. His previously jet-black hair had turned much paler due to his eldest son's serious injury, revealing his dejected appearance. He looked out the window, his eyes dull, and sighed silently. Could it be that our spiritual race has really reached the point of extinction? Father, when Lan Jia saw this scene, she cried out softly, her tone full of worry. At this moment, he was like a useless person. The sword energy left by Xiang Kunlun in his body could not even circulate his spiritual power. Moreover, the constant stabbing pain made him feel exhausted. Nothing. Lan Linchuan glanced at him with dim eyes, then shook his head, indicating that he didn't need to worry about him. Seeing this, the other tribesmen also sighed, their tones filled with anxiety, confusion, and complaints. Grandpa Lan and the others haven't returned yet, and now the list for the wilderness competition is about to be released. What should we do? If I had known this, I shouldn't have gone looking for that young man. I heard he's only at the peak of the Divine King realm, and he's far away in Eastern Divine Continent. It would be a waste of time and effort. If we really invited him, could we really trust him? Yes, we are offering such a high reward this time. Let alone inviting someone like Xiang Kunlun from the Black Wind clan. It should be easy to invite a powerful quasi-saint from the 3 states. Lan Linchuan sat there silently. Soon, another scream came from outside the door. Report. Chief, the Black Wind and Earth Cloud tribes are urging us to quickly submit the candidates for tomorrow's competition. A young guard came hurriedly, followed by 2 dignified men in different clothes. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's expressions changed, and they all looked at Lan Linchuan, who was sitting on the first seat. Chief, originally, they had planned to report the foreign aid's name, but now that Mr. Lan hadn't returned, they didn't even know if the foreign aid agreed or not. What should they do? It's the last day, and you, the Wuling clan, haven't submitted your names yet. Do you really want to participate? The man from the Black Wind clan snorted coldly, his eyes sharp as he stared at Lan Linchuan on the throne without fear. Yes, people like you, even if you go, you can't just be stepping stones. It doesn't matter whether you participate or not. Chief Lan, give us an answer quickly and don't waste time. The Tianyuan tribeman beside him echoed, his tone full of disdain and condescension. You. When the Wuling tribe members heard this, they immediately became furious and looked as if they wanted to eat them. The Black Wind clan man smiled, his lips joking. You're not planning to attack us again, are you? Who gave you the courage? Aren't you afraid that your clan will suffer as a result? Well, I'll stand here today and see who dares to take action. As soon as these words were spoken, the tribesmen present calmed down a lot, but their eyes were still full of murderous intent. They clenched their palms and restrained themselves. Seeing this scene, the man from the Black Wind clan sneered, as if he had already expected it. Can't we delay for a day before foreign aid arrives? Lan Linchuan's face darkened, and he gritted his teeth. You also invited external help? The man from the Black Wind clan was a little surprised. He never imagined that the Wuling clan, which had always been rigid and feudal, would actually invite external aid for this wilderness competition. The man from the Tianyuan tribe, standing nearby, also looked a little surprised. But then, the two looked at each other and saw the smile in each other's eyes. They were a little curious. Given the reputation of the Wuling clan, they were able to invite outside aid to participate. They were probably just some unknown charlatan. Moreover, it was already the last day, and there was still no sign of the foreign aid. They couldn't imagine how mysterious the foreign aid had to be to not come. Thinking of this, the man from the Black Wind clan suppressed a smile and said to Lan Linchuan with a cupped hand, Since Chief Lan has made an exception this time and invited external aid to participate in the wilderness competition, we will also make an exception and report back to the chief. I will give you 1 day. The man from the Tianyuan tribe, standing nearby, also nodded, unable to hide the smile on his face. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that these 2 people looked down on the foreign aid invited by the Wuling clan from the bottom of their hearts, and they had no concerns that it would cause harm to their own strong men. By the way, let me be clear. Since you've chosen to send foreign players this time, you should also be aware of the rules. If your foreign players still don't show up tomorrow, it will be considered a forfeit, and no substitutions will be allowed. The man from the Black Wind clan put away his smile and spoke coldly. Seeing this, Lan Linchuan took a deep breath, as if making a final decision, and then nodded with difficulty. Even he himself is not sure whether the other party will be able to come tomorrow, but this is the last hope of their Wuling tribe. He has no choice. If he or other members of the tribe were chosen to participate in the competition, there would be no hope at all. He had to fight. The jade pendants of Lan Xian and Lan Mo placed in the ancestral temple were not dimmed, which proved that they did not encounter any accidents on the road. If they could bring that person back, there would still be a glimmer of hope. Chief, this. The other tribesmen standing by were very puzzled and seemed to want to speak to persuade him. But when they saw Lan Linchuan's expression, they all kept silent. They didn't understand why the patriarch had to place his last hope on an outsider. You know, the other party, as the external aid of their ruling tribe, has not arrived yet. Tomorrow is the last day. Can we really make it? They still didn't know what happened when the patriarch and his men went to central Shinjo that day, which led them to trust the so-called foreign aid so much. Chief Lan is so courageous. The man from the Black Wind clan smiled, praised, bowed, and left with the two men from the Tianyuan clan. A few breaths later, all the Wuling people present heard the shrill laughter and felt very uncomfortable. Lan Linchuan watched them walk away. The coldness in his eyes remained unchanged. If it were during the heyday of their Wuling clan, if the other party dared to look down on them like this, there would have been two corpses lying on the ground. But unfortunately, now that the mountains and seas have changed, things and people have changed, and our spiritual race is no longer as powerful as before. He sighed, looked at an elder behind him, and asked, "What did the Feather Clan say?" "There's still no news." The elder shook his head and said in a deep voice. Hearing this, Lan Linchuan laughed at himself and looked outside. On the other side, there is the Yu clan, one of the four great tribes of the wilderness. "Chief, the envoy of the Wuling tribe has arrived outside. Do we need to meet him?" Inside the hall, a middle-aged guard knelt respectfully on the ground, looking at the woman in front of him, his eyes filled with admiration. In front of him was a woman who looked to be about 28 or 29 years old. She had a beautiful face, fair skin, and a dignified temperament. She was wearing a bright yellow dress and sat upright on the main seat. She has white feather shawls on both sides, plump breasts, peach-like buttocks, a slim figure, and exquisite curves. The slit of her skirt reveals her beautiful legs, showing her mature and charming style. "Let him in." The woman spoke, her voice full of magnetism and her tone filled with an irresistible majesty, forming a sharp contrast with her face. This woman is the leader of the Yu clan, a person regarded as a legend by the tribe, Yu Qiong. Below her, all the tribesmen had respectful expressions on their faces, and even their eyes when they looked at the woman were filled with a hint of passion. Without a trace of filth, it was the ultimate admiration. It is conceivable what kind of extraordinary status Yu Qiong holds among the entire Yu clan. Yes. The guard quickly turned and left. Yu Qiong stood up gently, her beautiful eyes deep as she looked at his back, thinking. She was well aware of the Wuling clan's motive for coming to the Yu family. It was nothing more than seeking cooperation with her. After all, the Black Wind clan and the Tianyuan clan had such strong external support. However, judging by the Wuling clan's past performance, it would be difficult to win without a joint effort. But what made her curious was why the Wuling tribe had not announced the participants of this wild competition after so much time had passed. Just as she was thinking, a middle-aged man in animal skin came in. It was Lan Hai, one of the elders of the Wuling tribe. Lan Hai half knelt on the ground, bowed respectfully, and kept a very humble attitude. "Meet Chief Yu." If you look closely, you can also see that his body is trembling slightly. The reason is simple. The Feather Clan is somewhat similar to the Wuling clan. Their ancestors were once glorious, but now they are both on the decline. However, the difference is that the Feather Clan has not declined so quickly. One of the reasons is the woman in front of him, Yu Qiong. As the daughter of the previous head of the Yu family, she was the one who led the Yu family when they were about to be exterminated. Less than 1,000 years old, she stood out alone, killed 4 quasi-sane enemies, and destroyed 10 god kings. Her ruthless actions made her famous. Later, she overwhelmed everyone and killed all those who opposed her becoming the tribe leader, successfully becoming the tribe leader of the Feather tribe. Only then was the Wuling clan, which was on the verge of extinction, rescued from the disaster. Now, under the leadership of Yu Qiong, the Yu clan has surpassed the Wuling clan by an unknown amount in strength and ranks second in the entire wilderness. It is even better than the Tianyuan clan, a 1,000-year-old family. Above it, only the Black Wind clan can suppress it. Only the woman before him could bring a family to this point. This is why Lan Hai dares not even look at Yu Qiong, even though she is so stunningly beautiful. In the final analysis, the other party is still a rose with thorns, and the thorns are extremely poisonous. Of course, this is also the reason why the other party is over 1,000 years old and still unmarried. According to legend, there was an elder of the Black Wind clan who, upon seeing Yu Qiong's appearance, became possessed by evil thoughts and wanted to force her to marry him, and he refused to give in the restaurant. The next day, a bloody head was seen hanging high outside the clan gate. The owner of the head was none other than the elder of the Black Wind clan. The entire wilderness was shocked for a while. From then on, no one dared to have any bad thoughts towards Yu Qiong. Even the other clan leaders were polite to her when they saw that she was a woman and did not dare to neglect her in the slightest. "What do you want from me?" Yuqiong glanced at him and said lightly. Lan Hai trembled as he told the story of what had happened to the Wuling tribe in recent days. Chapter 394, Immortal Treasure Harvest, Divine King Realm. After saying this, Yuqiong seemed to be lost in thought, her beautiful eyes flickering. "I never expected that the Black Wind clan would bully you and others like this. It seems that old fellow can't wait any longer. But speaking of which foreign aid did your Wuling clan invite this time? He hasn't arrived yet, and you're acting so arrogantly. I'm really curious." Lan Hai was a little hesitant because the clan leader had told him not to reveal any information. Seeing this, Yuqiong's eyes turned slightly cold. "You don't even want to disclose the information about the foreign aid, and you still want to join forces with our clan tomorrow? Is this your sincerity? You should know that the foreign aid our Feather clan invited this time is only a powerful formation master. Although he has no intention of plundering the wilderness keys of other families, he will have no problem guarding the wilderness key of our Feather clan. But you're different. As far as I know, the wilderness key of your Wuling clan was taken away by the Black Wind clan a few generations ago. Now they must be eager to get it back." After hearing these words, Lan Hai was shaken. He gritted his teeth and spoke. "According to the clan leader, the foreign aid coming this time is a young man from the outside world." "Young people from the outside world?" Yuqiong opened her red lips slightly, as if a little surprised. Even the other high-ranking members of the Feather clan widened their eyes, as if they had heard wrongly. What the hell is going on? The Wuling tribe has been busy for a long time and actually invited a young man from the outside world. Immediately, someone shook his head with a look of disappointment on his face. What can a young man do by joining forces with the Feather clan, and how much effect can he have? It's simply a fantasy. Soon, everyone thought that Yuqiong would have a frosty face, and the strong wind and thunder would drive away the sea of clouds. But who would have thought that Yuqiong was not angry, but instead looked curious and continued. "Who is it?" She had dealt with Lan Linchuan before and knew that he was not a big, strong fool. He was very sophisticated and patient. Although she looked down on him, she did not think he would be so stupid. At such a critical moment, they actually invited a young man from outside to come over. He must have some outstanding qualities. Lan Hai shook his head, his face showing an awkward expression. He bowed and said, "Chief Yu, the information I just revealed is already the limit of this old man. I absolutely cannot reveal any more. I hope you can forgive me." After the words fell, those members of the Yu family wanted to explode in anger, but they were stopped by Yuqiong. She waved her hand and said calmly, "All right, I understand. I will consider this matter. As for the reply, I can only give you an answer after meeting your foreign aid tomorrow. Thank you, Chief Yu. If we can survive this calamity, I, on behalf of my spirit clan, will express my gratitude." Lan Hai was excited and quickly knelt down to express his gratitude. And soon, he left here. After he left, the other Feather tribe members looked puzzled. "Chief, why don't you just reject him?" Yuqiong shook her head without further explanation. A trace of sadness flashed across her beautiful eyes, and she closed her eyes without saying a word. She is not stupid. The Black Wind clan is eager to get rid of the Wuling clan because they want to dominate the entire wilderness. After the other party dealt with the Wuling clan, the biggest thorn in their eyes would be their Yu family. So she would still help the Wuling clan if she could. If the Black Wind clan really succeeds, the Feather clan will be in great trouble in the future. The other side. In the west of central China, night falls and the moon is dim. In the thin moonlight, the crimson flames passed by like a scorching sun. Inside the white jade chariot, a young man in snow-white clothes was reciting immortal scriptures. Immortal mist surged around him, and light overflowed with occasional thunderous sounds. At the same time, the immortal orifices in that body were constantly being refined, madly devouring the spiritual energy around it. Zhu Ying's beautiful eyes were stunned. Even though she had been used to seeing the other party practicing such terrifying scenes in recent days, she still couldn't help but be shocked every time she saw it. What kind of martial arts did the other party practice to produce such amazing visions? It was not inferior to the visions of those ancient people who had achieved the 9th grade physique. Even better, if she knew that this was just the introduction to the great Tao immortal scripture and it had such power, she would probably be so shocked that she would be speechless. Soon, as the last breath ended, Nangong Chen suddenly opened his eyes, and as his pupils opened and closed, a burst of blazing energy burst out. With the smashing of 20,000 immortal crystals, 30 immortal orifices were opened, and the great Tao immortal scripture was completed to a small extent. The minor success in the great Tao immortal scripture was enough to allow the killing techniques he unleashed to undergo a qualitative transformation, and to restore his spiritual energy at a terrifying speed that was beyond the reach of ordinary people. This can also perfectly support the many skills he has practiced and release them under different situations. The ancients often said that practice requires concentration, and learning too much will lead to stagnation. However, Nangong Chen has no such worries at all. On the contrary, he should be anxious if he learns too little. This is the extraordinary aspect of the great Dao immortal scripture. At the same time, he also cultivated the divine elephant prison-suppressing power to perfection. 5 trillion elephant particles bloomed in his body, and the strength of his physical body reached an astonishing level. At this moment, Nangong Chen's physical strength alone is enough to surpass the descendants of true dragons in the same realm. Even if he were to return to the immortal hiding place, he would probably be able to crush Xianjia with a single punch. The Thunder Emperor's magic also underwent a transformation, from the original heavenly thunder to the purple divine thunder, with its magnificent power, shocking all living beings. As for the secret of travel, one of the 9 secrets, the Qilin treasure technique, and the Heavenly Emperor fist, they have all made more or less progress. This is the terrifying comprehension that comes from the blessing of the Double Pupils and the Hongmeng Dao fruit, which allows one to quickly comprehend the divine skills. If any other monster came, it would take at least 1,000 years to make such a leap. Even in these few days, Nangong Chen learned all the formation manuals of the Tianjin Holy Land, recited all the formations by heart, and selected 3 formations that were most useful to him at the moment. The most powerful killing formation, the Holy Sword formation, is cast according to the cultivation level of the caster. It is invincible within the same realm, but requires the blessing of 4 saintly weapons. After Nangong Chen's improvement, the 4 holy weapons were transformed into immortal swords. At the same time, their effects also changed drastically. They could kill enemies across a realm with amazing power. Nangong Chen also named it the Immortal Destroying Sword Formation. However, the amount of soul consumed is far greater than other formations. Therefore, Nangong Chen also regards it as a trump card. The other 2 formations are the Yin-Yang Illusion Formation and the 8 Directions Locking Immortal Formation. As the name suggests, the Yin-Yang Illusion Array is exquisite and can create illusions. Anyone who enters the array, even a saint, will fall into it if he is not careful. For those with a lower realm than himself, it can even kill them invisibly. The 8-Direction Locking Immortal Formation is a powerful weapon for trapping the enemy. Within the space formed by the formation, there is nowhere to hide. No matter how fast the enemy is, they will be restrained by it. For Nangong Chen, it is definitely a good way to retain people. In addition to the formation, he has also repeatedly studied the mystery of the double pupil opening the sky in the past few days, and has gained new insights. At least in terms of the application of the double pupil, he has made great progress. At this moment, Nangong Chen has reached a limit that no one has ever reached before, the realm of the God King. Even if he's at the early stage of sainthood, he can still fight. Nangong Chen murmured in his heart that this trip to the immortal treasure had brought him so much gain. Not only did he reach the peak of the God King, but he also took all the resources of a top-level force in the upper realm and gained the terrifying insights of the woman with double pupils. After this wild competition, when he steps into the quasi-saint realm, he dare not imagine what kind of transformation he can achieve with the foundation in his current body. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look forward to tomorrow's wilderness competition. I need to be stronger to solve this problem. Even though he was progressing so fast now, he still felt uneasy whenever he thought of the scene that day in the immortal treasure house that the girl with double pupils showed him. Before long, the boundless black fog will permeate the entire 9 heavens and 10 realms. He still has regrets in his heart that he has not completed, and he cannot fall like this. He could also feel that the woman with the ghost face seemed to have disappeared for a while, and he didn't know where she had gone. He still remembered what she had said. You have to become stronger before you can know everything. The cold voice seemed to ring in his ears again. From all the previous signs, it can be judged that whether it is the immortal kings in the holy temple or other powerful beings, they're all telling that the blood in their bodies is extraordinary. This also proves that his mother must be an extraordinary existence in the upper realm, and her status is probably astonishingly great. And it was such a person who had never come to visit him since he was born. Maybe the other party had come secretly, but he didn't know. He could also guess a lot. Such a powerful existence would be rampant wherever it went. So how could it be that it didn't dare to come to the 10 realms? Perhaps there were more important things to do in the upper realm. Nangong Chen took a deep breath. Half a year later, he would definitely step into the 9 heavens, and no one could stop him. Then, he thought of the world tree in the Tianyuan spiritual steel. To be honest, he had not yet found the time to find the old man to learn how to use the world tree seedling. It seems that I have to go there after this while competition is over. After all, the world tree is not a simple thing. It is a top-level Tao seed, and naturally it cannot be wasted there. In addition, he also had to speed up the search for the last wish that Gu Nin had entrusted to him. He didn't have much time left in Xintian domain, and he didn't want to let it down. The reason why Zhou Waner and Wang Yuxuan did not come with him this time was because he ordered them to do this. Now that Wang Yuxuan has a strong cultivation base and her natural spiritual body can be used, she can find Gu Mingling, the daughter of Gunan, faster. He was very relieved about this, believing that if he couldn't use it, he would be able to find the other party. Inside the carriage, Zhu Ying looked at him in deep thought, without making a sound to disturb him. These days, he often does this, and after practicing, he would remain silent and think. She has gotten used to it. Chapter 395. If Master does not mind, please accept my disciple's greeting. Just when Zhu Ying was lost in thought, that calm and indifferent voice suddenly sounded. Take these formations back, Nangong Chen said softly, and launched a light blue storage ring into the air, flying in front of Zhu Ying. That day, after he asked Zhu Ying for the formation manual, the ancestor of the Tianjin Holy Land used the formation to send the storage ring full of formation manuals to him. Each book was an authentic one and full of sincerity. Now that the 5th day is approaching, it is time for him to fulfill his promise. Zhu Ying was stunned and asked in disbelief, You finished reading it all? After he finished speaking, that handsome face nodded slightly, and Zhu Ying was completely shocked. I finished learning. Nangong Chen uttered 3 words lightly, his face calm. With the intra-level formation skills, it was not difficult for him to learn these formation charts. He could imprint them in his mind with just one glance. By the way, he also improved the formation chart. So soon, Zhu Ying's beautiful eyes were stunned. It took a long time for her to calm down, but her heart was still filled with horror. Others may not know, but as a genius of the Holy Land, she knows very well how many formations there are in the Holy Land of Heavenly Arrays. A total of 53,400 formation manuals. Even the ancestor only read a part of them in his entire life, which was about 10,000 books. As for herself, despite having a natural foundation in formation skills, she had only learned 4,000 formation manuals. However, this speed was unmatched in the entire Holy Land of Heavenly Formations. Now, the other party actually told him that he had learned all the tens of thousands of years of heritage of their Holy Land in just 4 or 5 days. Monster. After a long time, she slowly uttered these 2 words in her heart. But there's another possibility, that is, the other party is deceiving himself. Nangong Chen raised his eyebrows when he saw her putting away the storage ring. Why don't you take a look at the improved formation diagram I gave you? After hearing this, Zhu Ying was stunned for a moment. Then she remembered that the other party seemed to have said a few days ago that he would help them improve the formation. However, she just regarded it as the other party's courtesy. After all, what could be improved in such a short time? But I didn't expect that the other party would actually do it. She paused for a few breaths, swallowed her saliva, and then casually took out a book from her storage ring. Soon, after she flipped through a few pages, her pupils shrank slightly. The formation manual in his hand was only of the earth rank. After Nangong Chen's improvement, not only did its power increase greatly, but even the materials consumed were greatly reduced. As far as she knew, only a holy formation book could have such an effect. In this way, this formation book had already reached the holy level. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but breathe quickly and took out a few formation manuals from the storage ring. After flipping through them, she fell silent. The other party really did it. All these formations were improved by him. With the other party's improvements, each of these formations has been qualitatively improved, and some of the ideas in them are something she had never thought of. This is enough to prove the terrifying understanding of the person who improved the formation. She couldn't imagine how the masters and senior brothers in the Holy Land would react after bringing these formation manuals back to the Holy Land. For their Holy Land, this is definitely the greatest opportunity since its founding. She suppressed the throbbing in her heart and asked in a trembling voice, "Are these all for us?" Nangong Chen took a sip of tea, glanced at her, and said calmly, "Isn't this yours?" Upon hearing this, Zhu Ying put the ring away in a daze, as if it were a dream. Our own Holy Land only lent the formation manual to the other party for a few days, but received such an incredible reward. At this moment, her eyes were full of passion as she looked at Nangong Chen. It was a look of extreme admiration, as if she was seeing a god. The slight doubt she had just had also completely disappeared. Now she was certain that the other party was definitely the legendary Taoist formation. If Grandpa and the others knew about this, they would be extremely grateful to you, Zhu Ying said excitedly. Nangong Chen waved his hand, not caring about it. He then casually took out a secret book and passed it to Zhu Ying. "Since you lent it to me, I can't treat you unfairly. You can take this one and read it too." Zhu Ying's beautiful eyes lit up, and she picked it up. When she saw the name on the book, her breathing became hot. This turns out to be the legendary ditch sky, the most mysterious and profound formation technique in the art of formations. That day in Zuetian Pavilion, she had seen Nangong Chen perform this technique and was extremely envious. She never thought that she would be able to obtain this legendary secret book. Her throat rolled, unable to hide the excitement in her heart, but she still shook her head and handed it back. This is too precious. I can't accept it. Nangong Chen has already repaid their Holy Land double. If he accepts this book, it would be unreasonable. The favor he owes them may never be repaid in his lifetime. If you don't want it, just throw it away. I never take back what I give away, Nangong Chen said calmly. When Zhuing heard this, her face turned pale. How could she throw this away? This was a priceless treasure in the legend. However, after hearing the second half of Nangong Chen's sentence, she knew that the other party would definitely not want to go back. Being able to teach me this secret skill, the other party must trust me very much, or he must want to train me as his apprentice. Zhuing, are you so dull that you can't even see the other party's hints? Thinking of this, Zhuing suddenly came to her senses. She bowed respectfully to the young man in the snow-covered clothes in front of her and said softly, "If Master doesn't mind, please accept my disciple's greeting." Nangong Chen almost spit out his tea, not quite understanding what the woman in front of him was up to. Could it be that he really believed that he was the reincarnation of a powerful being from the upper realm? A flash of white passed before his eyes. The next moment, Zhuing came over and refilled the teacup with water, and her seductive curves were fully displayed in front of Nangong Chen. "Master, please use it." Zhuing blinked her autumn eyes like flowing water and spoke softly. Her voice was sweet and pleasant. Beneath the black and gold phoenix tail skirt are beautiful legs wrapped in black stockings, shining with luster and extremely delicate. Seeing her like this, Nangong Chen felt a little disturbed, but he remained calm on the surface. "Okay, Master is Master, and he is too lazy to explain. Call the two people outside in for me. I have something to ask." Nangong Chen seemed to have thought of something, shook the teacup, and spoke. Since he's going to Menghuang tomorrow, he still needs to understand the basic situation there to avoid any setbacks. After all, others offered such a high price to ask me to be a foreign aide. There must be some unspeakable reasons. Yes, Zhuing nodded obediently. Although she was a little confused as to why the other party didn't call her disciple, she still went out to call for help. Soon, the old man with the broken arm and the girl in the horse-faced skirt came in with some trepidation in their hearts. Lanimo spoke first, respectfully asking, "Prince, are you looking for us?" "Well, I have something to ask." Nangong Chen nodded slightly, motioning him to take a seat without a trace of airs. At the same time, Zhuing thoughtfully refilled their tea. After a stick of incense, Nangong Chen's eyes flashed, and he understood the general situation of Menghuang at present. There are 4 clans in the wilderness. The Black Wind clan is the strongest, followed by the Feather clan and the Tianyuan clan. The weakest is the Wuling clan. In addition to the fact that the champion of the wilderness competition can enter the heart-refining pool for foreign players, it also has an important impact on the family to which he belongs. That is the size of the resources allocated in the wilderness. Those who rank higher will get more, and those who rank lower will naturally get less. Lanimo told himself that the Wuling clan used to be relatively strong in the entire wilderness, not as weak as it is now. It was because of the repeated failures in the wilderness competitions and the exploitation of the Black Wind clan that they fell to where they are today. Even the symbol of their tribe, the key to the wilderness, was lost to the Black Wind tribe. Of course, he also said that if the Black Wind clan had not broken their promise and taken the lead in using external aid, they, the Wuling clan, could still have achieved good results in the wilderness competition with their strong men. Now, the resources of the wilderness controlled by their Wuling clan are about to be exhausted, and the key to the wilderness has not been returned yet. They are eager to bring back the faith of the Wuling clan from generation to generation. This is why several people from the Wuling clan traveled thousands of miles to eastern Xinzhou to look for him. He also revealed that his strongest opponents in this wild competition will most likely be the Black Wind clan and the Tianyuan clan. According to his understanding, the other party will definitely make big moves this year, so he has to be extremely careful. Nangong Chen disagreed with this. He had already reached the pinnacle and was invincible except for the saints. However, he did not explain too much, just reassured Lanimo. Since he has accepted the other party's money, all he has to do is win the wilderness competition and get the opportunity to go to the heart-refining pool. He couldn't control too many things in the wilderness, but if anyone prevented him from doing things, he would kill them. It was that simple. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen looked out the window with a dim gaze. The next day, at the core of the wilderness, there is a 1,000-foot-high ancient wooden arena. This is where the wilderness competition has been held since ancient times. It is said that the ancient wood of the arena is made of natural materials, how the history of thousands of years is indestructible and has an extremely large area. This is why the wilderness competition was held here. All around it, there are seats for guests from near to far, which can accommodate more than 10,000 people. Among them, the closer the seat is to the ring, the higher the status it represents. At this moment, the entire arena was crowded with people, traffic was heavy, and it was extremely lively. The monks in various strange costumes seemed out of place with the monks from the 3 states. I never thought that this seemingly weak and backward wilderness could actually have such a grand arena. Each piece of the 1,000-year-old vine wood is worth 1,000 gold. Looking across the entire Xintian domain, only the wilderness can be so grand. Yes, it was truly shocking to watch. I can't even imagine how high and mighty we would be fighting in this arena. But it's good to be here to watch the battle. I heard that if we were any later, the wilderness would have implemented a ban, only allowing people to leave but not enter. It's said that it's because there are too many people. Of course, don't you think about how terrifying the person competing today must be? We don't even get to see him on a normal day, let alone watch him fight. The monks from the 3 states, present side. Chapter 396. On the day of the wilderness competition, the Black Wind clan launched an attack. However, those who were born and raised in the wild areas were used to it and were not too surprised. Their faces were calm, because they know that the bigger thing is yet to come. Not long after, the void trembled, and 3 terrifying figures appeared together, standing on the ancient wooden arena, each standing on one side. In an instant, terrifying pressure poured down like a tide. The entire arena fell silent in an instant. Everyone's pupils shrank as they stared in amazement. Soon, they reacted and their breathing became hotter. There is no other reason. The 3 strong men on the stage are the contestants of today's wilderness competition, and they're the ones who have received the most attention in recent days. That person is Xiang Kunlun, the Grand Elder of the Yuxiao Sword sect. He is known as the number 1 person below the quasi-saint. I never thought that one day I would be able to see him in person. Someone exclaimed, his eyes filled with horror. On the ancient wooden arena, an old man stood on the east side, his jade robe swaying in the wind, a holy sword hanging around his waist. His aura was astonishing. Just standing there, boundless sword intent intertwined in the void, like a divine sword returning to its original state. He is Xiang Kunlun, who was invited by the Black Wind clan. He is famous and renowned throughout the 3 states. No one dared to look directly at it. The sword aura was extremely dazzling. Yang Zhen is equally terrifying. At such a young age, he possesses extraordinary powers of thunder magic, like a master of thunder. He's no ordinary person either. Someone also spoke up and looked at the young man in purple standing on the west side of the ring, his eyes full of fire. In the arena, a young man in purple with a dignified face stood in the western corner. He was surrounded by lightning. His brows were full of pride, and when his eyes opened and closed, there seemed to be thunder from the sky. The terrifying aura undoubtedly told everyone that he was at the peak of quasi-saint. This person is the youngest elder in the history of Wanfa Lei sect, Yang Zhen. At only 3,000 years old, he had already reached the peak of quasi-sainthood. His strength was comparable to that of a veteran quasi-saint and should not be underestimated. When the young women present saw this, their beautiful eyes lit up and they wished they could become disciples of such a powerful person. Of course, the other men were also envious, and they hoped that they could become such a strong man in the future. Even those wild people were shocked after seeing Yang Zhen. The other party looked so young that they couldn't imagine that he was a quasi-saint who had lived for 3,000 years. Is this the terrifying thing about the powerful people from the outside world? As for the one on the south side of the ring, it was a middle-aged man in yellow clothes with a bulging belly, a round face, and a smile on his face, looking amiable. This person is Su Rue, the elder of the Tianjin Holy Land, and also the foreign aide invited by the Yu clan. No one looked down on them, but compared to the first 2, the latter received less discussion and seemed somewhat unremarkable. On the ring, when Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen saw Su Rue, a hint of fear flashed in their eyes. Although the opponent seems simple, he is actually the most difficult one to deal with in this wilderness competition. Just from the identity of the elder of the Holy Land, there's an unknown distance between them. You know, no matter how powerful they are, they're just a first-rate force, and it is difficult for them to compete with the Holy Land with a terrifying background. Fortunately, they had heard the news before. This time, Su Rue was not interested in competing for the championship. He only wanted to protect the key to the wilderness of the Feather Clan. Therefore, for the 2 of them, their real opponents this time are each other. Thinking of this, Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen looked at each other and saw the fiery fighting spirit in each other's eyes. As for the foreign aid from the Wuling tribe that had been delayed in arriving from the north, they were never taken seriously from the beginning to the end. You are truly remarkable, young man. To have reached my level at such a young age is truly impressive to me. Xiang Kunlun sighed, then changed the subject and spoke sharply. But being too young isn't necessarily a good thing. Without having experienced many setbacks, one's mentality is more fragile and one cannot withstand the blows. Yang Zhen shook his head and raised his eyebrows. He naturally knew the other party's sarcasm, and he did not hold it back. He immediately said, "You're the one who's the best. Old Ginger is always the wisest. I just wonder if this old Ginger, after not using its sword for thousands of years, is still as sharp as it once was, or has it become dull? I don't know if he's dull or not, but I'm sure Zhan Shower will be fine." Xiang Kunlun was not annoyed, but responded with a cold look in his eyes. At this moment, the two of them had a confrontation in their words, and it seemed as if sparks could be seen burning in the void. When the people present saw this, they couldn't help but scream. They didn't expect that in their lifetime, they would be able to see two quasi-saints fighting each other. Su Rue watched the scene with a smile and didn't say anything more. Soon, more figures appeared in the void. They were the patriarchs of the four major families, which also caused everyone to exclaim in amazement. When the people of the wilderness saw this, they all bowed respectfully. Upon seeing this, the cultivators from the 3 states also followed suit and saluted. After all, the Monghuang family was the host here, so they had to show due courtesy. Fuck, who is this beautiful woman? She's standing shoulder to shoulder with those clan leaders. The cultivators from the 3 states were extremely shocked after seeing Yu Qiong's appearance. This figure, this beauty, wow, it's not inferior to those saints and fairies in our 3 states. In some aspects, it's even better. It has a completely different flavor from those young girls. There were also monks who commented on it with great interest. But soon his friend next to him covered his mouth and whispered, "Are you stupid? Who else could it be? He's the leader of the Feather Tribe, a great figure at the quasi-saint level. Do you want to die?" In the void, Yu Qiong was wearing a bright yellow fairy dress with white feather shawls on both sides, and her beautiful face was full of majesty. Just standing there, her impressive figure and appearance, especially the mature charm that a young girl didn't have, instantly attracted a lot of people's attention. Soon, all 4 clan leaders were seated. When everyone learned that Yu Qiong was the patriarch of the Yu tribe, they were all shocked. Ed sat in the first seat on the east side, his eyes dim. His seat also had a meaning corresponding to the foreign aid on the ring, Xiang Kunlun, who was also standing on the east side. "Oh, your Wuling clan's foreign reinforcements haven't arrived yet at this critical moment." Head glanced at the ring and said with a smile. The chief of the Tianyuan tribe on the west side also had a smile on his face, but it was a mocking smile. The two of them found out yesterday that the Wuling clan, which had never invited outside aid, had actually invited outside aid for the first time in this Monghuang competition. But please, it seems a little late now. Yu Qiong didn't say anything, but just looked at the empty seat on the ring thoughtfully. After hearing this, Lan Linchuan said in a deep voice, "There's still an hour until the wilderness competition begins. You don't need to worry about it." Worry? What a joke. Who would worry about you? Even if your foreign aid arrives or not, it won't have any impact on today's wilderness competition. Head smiled, his tone full of disdain, and then his eyes were cold. "It's just official business. If your mysterious foreign aid hasn't arrived after an hour, don't blame me for ruthlessly disqualifying you." As soon as these words were spoken, Lan Linchuan's face suddenly turned red. In public, the Blackwing clan really didn't even bother to act, and actually mocked them like that. "Heidi, what do you mean? A few days ago, you injured my son and tried to forcefully marry my daughter. Now you're humiliating us time and time again. Are you really going to break off relations with our Wuling clan?" Lan Linchuan gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with anger. "Tear off the relationship? Don't take yourself too seriously. Are you from the Wuling tribe qualified to say such a thing?" Head laughed, a shameless laugh. He Sheng, who was standing beside him, looked at Lan Jia, who was sitting in a wooden wheelchair and couldn't move, and said in surprise, "Brother, what's going on? How come you're lame after not seeing you for a few days? Hurry up and tell your brother-in-law who hurt you like this. Given our friendship, I must seek justice for you." Hearing this, Lan Jia was furious. Veins popped out, and she pointed at his nose. "You!" He had never seen such a shameless person. He saw someone destroying him with his own eyes, but still pretended to comfort himself. Seeing him like this, He Sheng laughed even more triumphantly. In fact, his intention was to cripple the other party. It was because the other party had better talent than him, and he was not allowed to get close to Lan Xin. "By the way, where's Lan Xin? I haven't seen my unmarried wife in a long time." He Sheng looked behind him and said with some confusion, "Get lost. You beast, you still want to marry Lan Xin? Go and dream on." Lan Jia cursed loudly. When He Sheng heard the word toad, his face instantly turned dark. He hated being called these 3 words the most. Then he wanted to come over and kill Nangong Chen. The next moment, Lan Linchuan stood up, his late quasi-saint cultivation bursting out without a trace. His eyes were cold, and he gritted his teeth and said word by word, "What do you want to do?" Soon, Black also stood up, bursting out with all his skills, and confronted him without fear. The commotion was so loud that many people noticed it and looked surprised. What happened? Why are the 2 family heads on edge, as if ready to come to blows? Don't you know? Those 2 tribes are the Black Wind Clan and the Wooling Clan. They've been arguing with each other for a long time. It's said that some time ago, the Black Wind Clan even brought people to cripple the young master of the Wooling Clan. There are also people from the wilderness who explained, the Wooling Clan? Is that the Monghuang clan of the person who hasn't been seen on the stage yet? Yes, it's them. It's strange. In previous years, they sent their family members to participate, and each one lost miserably. Why didn't they send anyone this year? Did they simply give up? I don't think so. If they really wanted to give up, they would have started long ago. Why are they still procrastinating now? Seeing the situation getting worse, Yu Qiong frowned slightly and said coldly, "That's enough. How long do you want to keep embarrassing yourself?" She also exploded with power, even more terrifying than the other 2, and her pressure was directed more towards the Black Wind Clan. Seeing this, Heidi had some fear in his eyes, but he could only force a smile and pull Heisheng back. Lan Linchuan secretly breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Yu Qiong with gratitude on his face. Chapter 397, Pre-Match Discussion, Countdown. Since we still have an hour to go, we can't let so many people here just sit and wait. After all, they've come all the way here, so we can't be impolite. Otherwise, it would seem like our Monghuang family doesn't understand the ways of the world. Head's eyes flashed, and he said slowly, "Oh, so what do you mean?" The patriarch of the Tian tribe nearby heard this, and his eyes lit up, and he understood what he meant. "I suggest that since there's only an hour left, we should let our own Tianjiao go up and compete with the Tianjiao from the 3 states who have arrived today. This will give everyone a great time." Head continued, giving him a somewhat appreciative look. "This is a good suggestion. It will also allow the younger generations of our Monghuang family to see the gap between them and the outside world's geniuses and let them exchange martial arts with each other." Tuha clapped his hands and agreed very much. "I wonder what your intentions are." Heidi put away his smile, looked at the opposite side, and said slowly. Lan Linchuan's tiger's eyes were wide-eyed and furious. How could the other party not know that the genius of the Wooling clan had been crippled? If this action continued, no one from his Wooling clan would go to fight, so wouldn't they be humiliated in public? Thinking of this, he snorted coldly. There's no way I'll agree to that. Since there's still an hour left, then just wait patiently." Yu Qiong was silent, her beautiful eyes flickering, and no one knew what she was thinking. Seeing this, Head smiled triumphantly. If Yu Qiong doesn't object, then what's the point for a small person like Lan Linchuan to object? Opposition is futile. The minority must obey the majority. Head shook his head, his tone leaving no room for doubt. Then, he stood up with a smile, flicked his sleeves, and kicked into the air. The next moment, he arrived at the center of the ring. Seeing this, everyone was confused and looked at him with doubts. "What's going on? Everyone's here. Why are you still dilly-dallying? Why hasn't the wilderness competition started yet? Yeah, what's going on? The last session wasn't this slow. Didn't you see? In that corner of the arena, it seems that there are still contestants from the family who haven't arrived yet. Hey, it seems to be true. What family is that? The Wooling clan, right? That's right, it's the Wooling clan. They always come in last place. Now that the wilderness competition is about to begin, there's not even a trace of them. What do you think? Could it be that they've given up on the competition? Something is possible." Heidi listened to these whispers with a smile on his face, then raised his hand and said loudly, "Could you all please be quiet and listen to what I have to say?" After he finished speaking, the surroundings suddenly became much quieter. They were not stupid, so they naturally recognized that this man was the leader of the famous Black Wind clan. Moreover, in the eyes of outsiders, the Black Wind clan is almost the strongest family in the wilderness. So, we still have to give the face we deserve. "Hey, clan leader, you say." A monk present stood up and bowed. The fact that the other party was a quasi-saint realm expert still asked them questions was a great respect for them. Therefore, the monks present were still quite fond of this appearance of Head. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the corners of Head's mouth curled up, revealing a look of satisfaction, and continued. "Thank you so much for visiting my great wilderness today. My humble servant is extremely grateful. You're too polite, Chief He. If it weren't for you hosting the wilderness competition that takes place every 10 years, we casual cultivators would never have the chance to witness such a battle between powerful warriors." A casual cultivator responded with a bow. Seeing this, Head sighed. Alas, As for why I came up to say a few words, it's because there was a small accident in the wilderness competition, and it won't start until an hour later. Hey, clan leader, what happened? Someone looked puzzled and asked doubtfully. Seeing someone taking the bait, Head shook his head as if he had something to hide. After a while, he spoke. It's nothing serious. It's just that, during this crucial competition, one of our clans may have forgotten that today is the day of the wilderness competition, and their external reinforcements haven't arrived yet. But I can understand it. After all, although that clan doesn't have the courage to compete for the top spot, they are honest and hardworking. It's normal for them to be negligent. We have no choice but to wait another hour. Would like to apologize to everyone here. I hope you won't blame them too much. When these words were spoken, everyone looked surprised. Why is the wilderness competition delayed? So this is the reason. Someone immediately showed understanding and said, it's only an hour. Since we've come all the way here, this little bit of time won't bother us, right? That's right. As soon as he finished speaking, many people echoed him. At this moment, everyone had a more favorable impression of Head, which completely refreshed their impression of the wild people. I didn't expect that there would be such a reasonable person in this wilderness. But in the same way, everyone knew without having to guess which tribe Head was referring to was the Nangong tribe. Immediately, dissatisfaction flashed in the eyes of many people. How did the Wuling clan fall into such a state? They don't even cherish the once-in-a-decade opportunity of the wilderness competition. No wonder they always come in last. I heard people say before that the young master of the Wuling tribe seemed to have been crippled by the Black Wind tribe. They felt regretful about it, but now it seems that it was simply their own fault. With just a few words, Head not only won the favor of everyone, but also pushed the Nangong tribe into the spotlight. It can be said that it kills two birds with one stone. After seeing this scene, Lan Linchuan in the audience trembled, and his eyes seemed to be spewing anger. This black is so shameless. But there was nothing he could do but watch the other party talking nonsense. Yu Qiong frowned slightly and remained silent. Head on the stage ignored them, smiled, and said, since that's the case, I can't let everyone lose interest during this hour. So I've decided to have the younger generation of the Monghuang lineage and the young geniuses from your 3 states compete on stage and exchange martial arts. As soon as he finished speaking, he received a lot of applause. Even among the crowd, there were many geniuses with fiery eyes, rubbing their hands ready to fight. After all, this is the arena for the wilderness competition. If you can go on stage once, even if you lose, you can still show yourself in front of so many people. The opportunity is not worth it. I have no objection. On the ring, Xiang Kunlun spoke, and he and the other two quietly made way for their feet, leaving a large area of space. All right, since everyone's so enthusiastic, let my son take the lead and show off his skills to give everyone a good start. Head continued, smiling broadly. The next moment, he looked down at the stage and gave Heisheng a look. Heisheng understood what he meant and showed excitement on his face. He bent his legs and kicked out, like a black tiger, drawing a domineering line in the air and landing steadily in the center of the ring. At the same time, the aura of the middle stage of the Great Power Realm was released without reservation. After everyone felt it, their faces changed slightly and shock appeared in their eyes. He is indeed worthy of being the son of the Black Wind clan leader. He is indeed no ordinary person. Judging from his appearance, he is no more than 100 years old, but he has already reached the middle stage of the Great Power Realm. Even in the central Xinzhou, where there are so many geniuses, he is considered to be one of the top ones. Going further up, there are all those monsters who have returned from the immortal world. Of course, such existences are rare. At the same time, Lan Linchuan and Yu Qiong looked unhappy after seeing this scene. They knew that Head was clearly using this opportunity to build momentum for his son. To be honest with you all, I am considered the #1 prodigy in the wilderness. Now I have become a disciple of Senior Xiong, so I have some strength. I hope you who come up here will assess your own strength. Otherwise, you will make a fool of yourself. Head gave a kind reminder. As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of those geniuses who were full of passion just now changed slightly, as if they were splashed with a handful of cold water, and they calmed down instantly. Yes, the opponent is no ordinary person, and it is not easy to become famous in one battle. As for the Nangong clan, the Lan family members were furious after hearing this. Their eyes were cold, and they wished they could cut him into pieces. Damn the #1 prodigy, the #1 prodigy in the wilderness, is clearly Lan Jia from their Wuling clan, who has reached the late stage of the Great Power Realm at such a young age. If it weren't for the Black Wind clan, Lan Jia would have already been a shining star. Why would she have to sit in the dark pharmacy all day? Lan Jia, who was sitting in a wheelchair, was also watching this scene, her fingers clenched, silent, with blood dripping from her hands. On the ring, seeing that the atmosphere was almost heated, Heidi pushed Heisheng in front of him and said loudly, "Who is willing to be the first one to come up? We can exchange martial arts and just stop at the point. Even if it's my son, I won't protect him in the slightest. Of course, if anyone can defeat my son, I, am willing to give him a sacred herb as a reward. Of course, he didn't believe that anyone could beat He Sheng. After all, he had looked at everyone who came in this time, and none of them was a genius in the late stage of the Great Power Realm. As for his son, although he appeared to be in the middle stage of the Great Power Realm, he had actually broken through to the late stage of the Great Power Realm under Xiang Kunlun's guidance in the past few days. It can be said that this campaign for his son will be extremely successful, and there will not be any surprises. Thinking of this, the smile on his face became more confident. Soon, a young man in a green robe raised his hand, his eyes burning with passion, and said loudly, "I'm willing to fight you." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present turned to look. When they saw this person, their eyes lit up. If I remember correctly, this person seems to be Wen Sun, the second son of the Wen family, a top family in central Shenzhou. It's him. He's mastered the Wen family's swordsmanship. Although he has an elegant demeanor, he inevitably reveals a hint of ferocious sword energy. So, Wen Sun's swordsmanship is quite good. Even though he is only at the early stage of the Great Power Realm, he can still fight against the number one genius in the wilderness. Chapter 398. The person who should not be mentioned when discussing martial arts. He Sheng felt relieved when he saw that it was a genius in the early stage of the Great Power Realm who challenged him. Fortunately, he is in the early stage of the Great Power Realm. If it were any higher, he would still be very unsure. After all, he had reached the late stage of the Great Power Realm a month ago by using countless resources, and he was originally only in the early stage. When it comes to his actual judgment of his own combat power, he is relatively modest and self-aware. "It's you," He Sheng said confidently, with his hands leaning on his back, his black clothes fluttering, showing his extraordinary demeanor. After hearing this, Wen Sun showed a hint of excitement on his face, and soon he came to the ring. He had watched this scene with a smile. He was still relatively relieved at the early stage of the Great Power Realm. And soon, under the watchful eyes of everyone, the battle began. He Sheng first said, "I am one realm higher than you, which is not fair to you. How about this? I will fight you with the same realm of cultivation as you." After saying this, his aura reached the early stage of the Great Power Realm. When the people present saw this, they were also surprised, and then they were full of praise. As expected of the son of the Black Clan leader, this kind of demeanor is unmatched by ordinary people. After hearing this, Wen Sun's eyes were also somewhat shocked. He bowed slightly and said with some excitement, "Thank you, young master." "No problem." He Sheng waved his hand, showing a bit of the master's demeanor. He was originally in the late stage of the Great Power Realm. Even if he downgraded himself by one level, he was only in the middle stage. It was still very easy for him to defeat someone in the early stage. Soon, the two of them took action. He Sheng clenched his fists into tiger fists, kicked his legs, and rushed towards the opponent at lightning speed. On the other side, Wen Sun's eyes also became solemn. He could feel the amazing power in the other person's body. Immediately, he gripped the hilt of the knife with both hands, and with the tip of the knife flashing with a cold light, he swung it forward. Boom! The two collided in midair, erupting with astonishing power. Soon, as the black victory fist continued to gain strength, a figure flew backwards. It was none other than Wen Sun, the second son of the Wen family. When everyone saw this, they were shocked and marveled at He Sheng's terrifying strength. No one expected that Wen Sun, who was also in the early stage of the Great Power Realm, would lose so completely. He was defeated with just one move. "I'm sorry." He Sheng raised a smile and said modestly. Wen Sun shook his head, looking very embarrassed, and walked forward step by step. He just noticed that the other party seemed to have burst out with strength that was not inferior to that of the initial stage, and the aura that spread out was very strong. This is enough to prove that the opponent did not lower his strength at all, or that the opponent's strength is far more than what it seems on the surface. But even so, he had nothing to say and could only grit his teeth and swallow it. Accompanied by the cheers that resounded through the heavens and earth, not long after, 5 people were defeated by He Sheng. All of them were geniuses in the early stage of the Great Power Realm. The people in the wilderness all cheered for him, while the cultivators from the 3 states felt a little aggrieved, but they accepted it. After all, the opponent is the number 1 genius in the wilderness, so it is normal that he cannot be defeated. Of course, time passed by minute, and soon He Sheng met his last opponent of the day. Howard Pavilion, you, is like a mountain. Yu Russian looked at the other party, bowed, and said seriously, his eyes full of fighting spirit. On the other side, He Sheng looked at this huge body and felt the amazing aura, and couldn't help but sweat in his heart. He could sense that the opponent was definitely not as easy to deal with as the previous 5 people. He was probably the strongest opponent he had encountered today. At this moment, Heidi was also observing Yu Russian and secretly sent a message to Heisheng. In this battle, you must be serious. I will do my best to shield you from the aura of that late, great power realm cultivator. After hearing this, Heisheng took a deep breath and continued to encourage himself. That's right, he is the #1 genius in the wilderness. Facing a genius from outside, he can suppress him with ease. And around, people's pupils shrank slightly when they saw the familiar face. It turned out to be him, Yu Russian, the man who was defeated by a single punch. That person, could it be that he has double pupils? Sure. Following a burst of boos, everyone looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. That person is naturally the one with double pupils. Now we have hope. Both of them kill with strength. It depends on whose strength is stronger. Some people are full of confidence. You know, even though a long time has passed and there is still no news about the man with double pupils, in the hearts of the cultivators in the 3 states, he is still a legendary existence. Naturally, things related to people with double pupils will be magnified. At this moment, after hearing that Yu Russian had fought with such a legendary figure before, even some of the 3 states' strong men present narrowed their eyes and looked at Yu Russian carefully. It's nothing. In today's Xintian territory, people with double pupils are not just ordinary geniuses. After hearing these words, the people present were a little confused. What are they talking about? I can't understand anything. The top leaders of the 4 great families in the wilderness, who were at the front, also frowned. They also didn't know what these people were talking about. Yu Qiong looked at this scene, her eyes flickering and her heart filled with mixed emotions. If my guess is wrong, the young man standing on the ring now seems to have been defeated by an incredible existence. She was also curious about who that person was who could intimidate these people to the point that they dared not even mention his name. He must have been a stunning person. On the other hand, on the Wuling clan side, Lan Linchuan and Lan Jia's pupils shrank slightly. It was simple. They had been to Chu City and naturally knew the name of the terrifying young man they saw that day. It happened to be similar to the words those people had just discussed. At this moment, they took a deep breath and their eyes lit up. If he were defeated by that evil monster, dealing with Heisheng would probably not be a problem. On the ring, Heisheng frowned. Listening to those people's discussions, he always had a bad feeling. But soon, he focused all his attention on the man in front of him who looked like a wild bull. Yu Russian made a move, blasting out with a palm, and suddenly a dazzling golden light appeared. It was one of the unique skills of Howard Pavilion, the scattering gold palm. After the passage of time, he is no longer the simple-minded genius he used to be, and has become more mature. Heisheng raised his elbow to block it, and stood on the ring with the momentum of a green bull. The vastness of the world was also a unique skill of physical cultivation. Seeing Yu Russian rushing towards him, Heisheng sneered. The ancient martial art Qingyou Chongtian is all about one thing conquering another. The greater the incoming force, the stronger the force that bounces back. It seems that's all. Heisheng thought to himself that he seemed to have seen the other party being knocked away by him. However, the next moment, Yu Russian changed his palm into a fist, and golden light burst out, like gilded gold, shooting into the opponent's body from the tip of his fist. Of course, at the last moment, Yu Russian held back, otherwise this move would have taken the opponent's life. Heisheng's eyes were red with pain and bloodshot. He had never experienced such a high intensity before and was suddenly panicked. He took several steps back, blood oozing from the corner of his mouth. When Heidi saw this, he also looked panicked and shouted, "Show!" Heisheng was now furious and ignored it. After wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, he still clenched his fists and hit hard. He must kill the other party, and his aura of the late stage of the powerful realm was also released all at once. Heidi, who was eager to protect his son, did not make any move to cover it up. For a moment, the expressions of the monks present suddenly changed. What? This kid actually pretended to be in a certain realm before, seeing that Heisheng was full of murderous intent and all his moves were aimed at killing. Yu Russian's eyes flashed coldly, and he stopped holding back his strength. His skin gradually turned into a gilded color. Vajra body, appear. Boom! The two collided in the void, erupting with layer upon layer of power. Soon, after 100 moves, Heisheng fell into a disadvantage and vomited blood. Seeing this, Yu Russian said coldly, "It's just a sparring match. Do you really have to fight so hard?" Heisheng calmed down after hearing this, took a deep breath, and a flash of naked murderous intent flashed across his eyes, but he quickly retracted it. He bowed and forced a smile. "Excellent skill. I'm impressed. Fellow Taoist, there should be no pure genius who can rival you in the outside world, right?" Yu Russian was silent for a long time before he spoke. "I was once defeated by a man of my generation with just one punch, and I had no power to fight back." After he finished speaking, Heisheng's pupils suddenly shrank. He originally expected that he had entered the late stage of the Great Power Realm before the age of 100, which was already a rare existence, and there were also few in the entire Xintian domain. In his opinion, the fact that the other party could beat him meant that the other party should be considered a top figure like him in the outside world. However, he did not expect that the other party was actually defeated by a single punch. What a terrifying existence that kind of person must be. Thinking of this, Heisheng trembled and asked, "Who is it?" "The one who must not be mentioned." Yu Russian shook his head and refused to say more. "Are you okay, Sheng?" Heidi hurried to Heisheng and fed him a pill. Seeing Sheng shaking his head, Heidi finally breathed a sigh of relief, and then glanced at the opposite side, which was bone-chilling cold, and said in a deep voice, "My friend, sparring is just sparring. Why bother with the real thing?" In an instant, the terrifying pressure swept over, making Yu Russian's face turn pale. He didn't mean it seriously. He was just responding. Who could have thought that Heisheng would suddenly become more ruthless and want to kill him? At the same time, the monks from the 3 states in all directions gradually discovered that something was wrong, and the voices suddenly became quiet. Even on the stage, Yang Zhen and Su Rue were watching this scene with frowns on their faces. Everyone knows that this competition has changed with Yu Russian's victory. As for Xiang Kunlun, his eyes were cold, and he looked indifferent, as if it had nothing to do with him and was arrogant. Soon, the old and clever Heidi also reacted instantly, retracted his pressure, and smiled. "I'm sorry I scared you. I just saw my son was injured and I couldn't control myself. After this wilderness competition is over, come with me to the Black Wind tribe, and I will give you the holy medicine. The most urgent task at hand is the wilderness competition, which is the most important. Everything else can be put behind. After the competition is over, I will show you how to kill you, you kid, for daring to hurt my son." Head thought to himself, with a hint of coldness in the depths of his eyes, but he still smiled on the surface. Chapter 399. I am the foreign aid of the Wooling clan. After feeling the pressure disappear, Yu Russian took a deep breath. He had not expected that the gap between himself and the quasi-saint was so huge. After hearing what the other party said, Yu Russian narrowed his eyes slightly. He realized that the other party would definitely attack him after the end, but there was nothing he could do now. He could only bite the bullet and nod in acceptance. Thinking of this, he felt a little aggrieved. He had come here for the competition, but he didn't expect that he would suffer this even if he won. Head smiled, then looked around and said loudly, "Since my son lost, the holy medicine should go to this kid. After the wilderness competition is over, I will give it to him personally. An hour is almost over now, so let's call it a day." The wandering cultivators around also forced smiles and nodded. Head was very satisfied. After taking a look around, he set his sights on the group of Wooling people. At this moment, the Wooling people and others looked outside the gate, but they didn't see anyone and became extremely anxious. "Chief, the last hour is almost here. Why haven't they returned yet?" An elder of the tribe asked in confusion, his tone filled with anxiety. Now that the discussion has ended, the wilderness competition is about to begin, and there is not much time left. Lan Linchuan remained silent, staring blankly at the sky, as if waiting for a miracle to happen. After a few breaths, there was still no sign of anyone, and he was completely desperate. Lan Linchuan sighed and looked at the arena expressionlessly. On the other side, Heidi turned around, put away his smile, looked at the Wooling people, and said in a deep voice, "1 hour is up. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance. It's you who didn't cherish it. All right, I declare that since our spirit race has no external support, we will give up this wilderness competition." Before he could finish his words, a loud dragon roar sounded, shaking the void. Everyone looked up and stood there in shock. A red dragon was in the sky, burning the sky and boiling the sea. In the midst of the red fire, the white jade chariot was shining with divine light. At this moment, a cold and hot voice sounded from the sky. "I am a foreign aid of the Wooling clan." In an instant, the whole world became quiet. Dead silence. The pupils of everyone present suddenly shrank, and they stared blankly at the red dragon that suddenly appeared in the void. The inherent dragon power made everyone present tremble, and their hearts were moved. They could sense that the red dragon's cultivation must be extremely terrifying, otherwise it would not have such terrifying power. Even some of the quasi-saints present were speechless. The local wild people, including the 4 major families, were shaking like sieves and trembling. Some of those with weaker cultivation were so shocked by the pressure that they vomited blood and retreated continuously. Where did this dragon come from? The leaders of various tribes looked at the red dragon in the sky with fear. They were puzzled as to why a sage-level dragon appeared in the wilderness. That's right, during the time when Nangong Chen entered the immortal treasure house, Shaoqi had been sleeping in the divine dynasty. absorbing the essence of heaven and earth. Now, he has entered the realm of saint. Soon, the doubts of everyone present were resolved. Behind the red dragon, there was a white jade chariot emitting a fairy mist. The minds of the wild people present were blank. They couldn't imagine that such a terrifying monster was just someone else's mount. How noble is the identity of the person in that carriage? At this moment, the most panicked were none other than the Blackwind family. They were trembling with fear, never having expected that the ordinary Wooling clan could actually invite such a terrifying existence from the outside world as external aid. Are they going to fail in this wild competition? On the other side, the people of the Wooling clan were extremely excited. They had never imagined that Mr. Lon and his companions would actually invite such a huge Buddha, a red dragon pulling a carriage at the saint level. How majestic it is. The person driving the carriage must be an extremely powerful and terrifying person. But what is puzzling is why the voice just now sounded so young. They didn't think much about it. After all, a strong man like Yang Zhen could also maintain his youthful appearance, which was very common in the Xintian realm. Lan Linchuan and Lan Jia, who were in the lead, looked at each other after hearing the familiar voice, and they could see the excitement in each other's eyes. It's done. Not far away, Yu Qiong was also staring at this scene, her beautiful eyes flashing, her heart filled with shock and curiosity. As for the cultivators from the 3 states, although they were a little nervous, after hearing that extremely familiar voice, combined with the sound of the red dragon pulling the cart, they suddenly understood. Their faces changed from shock to excitement, and their whole bodies were shaking. Is it him? A genius murmured, his eyes filled with unprecedented passion, as if he was looking at a god. It was the ultimate worship. You must know that before this, the other party had disappeared from the entire Xintian domain for more than half a month without revealing any news. And now, a similar figure was seen in the wilderness competition held once every 10 years. No one responded. They stared at the sky, not daring to blink for a moment. Whether it was that person or not, we soon found out. They were shocked to see that a corner of the door curtain on the carriage was pulled open. At this moment, even the sound of swallowing saliva seemed to be amplified throughout the world, becoming extremely clear. Soon, a beautiful woman walked out of the carriage. She was wearing a black and gold phoenix tail skirt and a shining golden phoenix hairpin. Her face was so delicate that it was impeccable. It seemed as if the bright white light broke through the clouds and mist, and her whole body was glowing. Immediately after that, the beautiful woman came out and respectfully opened the door, curtained completely, bowed slightly and waited. Her temperament was so elegant and dignified that she attracted countless people's attention as soon as she appeared. Someone seemed to recognize her identity and exclaimed, She is Zhuing, the holy maiden of the Holy Land of the Heavenly Array. Then, in full view of everyone, a figure in a snow-white robe stepped out, his eyes like stars, his brows shining, and his face was incredibly handsome, like a banished angel from heaven. The young man had an indifferent expression, and his every move exuded an innate dignity and elegance. At this moment, the monks from the 3 states present were almost speechless with excitement. It's really him, the one with double pupils. No one expected that the man with double pupils would come to this wild competition without saying a word. And looking at his appearance, it seems that he is not seriously injured after the battle, and he is still in great spirits. On the ring, Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen's expressions changed slightly as they looked at Nangong Chen. They had only heard of each other's reputation before, and had never actually seen them in person. When they had heard that the man with double pupils was just a genius, but could fight against a quasi-saint effortlessly with the cultivation level of a god king, they sneered and thought it was too absurd. How could there be such a genius in the world who possesses such cross-border combat capabilities? They believe that the stories about people with double pupils are too magical and are probably exaggerated by people in that world. But after seeing them today, they changed their minds. The young man's eyes actually made them feel palpitations in his presence, as if their souls were about to be devoured by him. This also proves that this person with double pupils may not be exaggerated. Thinking of this, a hint of fear appeared in the eyes of the 2 men. And just now, they seemed to have heard the pupil man say that he was an external aid for the Wooling clan, but they didn't know whether it was true or not. As for the remaining quasi-saint Su Rue, he put away his smile and looked at the 2 people outside the white jade carriage thoughtfully. Zhu Ying actually followed the other party? Could it be that the ancestor really decided to let her follow the other party? At the same time, the other wild people present were also shocked and stood there stupidly. The powerful person invited by the Wooling clan was so terrifying that even the other cultivators from the 3 states present sighed in amazement. Even after seeing Nangong Chen's face, they were even more moved. The other party's face was too realistic. He actually looked like a teenager. Especially Chong Xiao's surging blood and energy which is completely unlike what a powerful man in his twilight years would possess. Of course, being able to maintain this level indirectly proves that the powerful person who came must be so terrifying. At this moment, if the cultivators of the three states knew that these wild people had misunderstood the person with double pupils, they would surely burst into laughter. But this is also normal. After all, the power emanating from a person with double pupils is so powerful that no one would not be confused. In the center of the ring, looking at the two figures coming in the air, Head was extremely nervous. Damn it! Where did the Wuling clan invite such a terrifying and powerful person? He couldn't see through his aura at all, and he didn't know whether the other party was a quasi-saint or a saint. If he were a saint, would there be any need for their wilderness competition to continue today? At this moment, Head hated the Wuling people in his heart and thought that they did not deserve such good foreign aid. On the side, Heisheng looked at the two people who came with curiosity in his eyes. When he saw Zhu Ying's beauty, he couldn't help but feel angry. The other person was so beautiful that she was almost as beautiful as Yiqiong, who was known as the most beautiful woman in the wilderness. She even had a touch of elegance and knowledge, which had a special appeal to uneducated people like them. He couldn't bear to think about it. It would be such a waste for such a beautiful woman to serve this old monster disguised as a teenager. Thinking of this, he glanced at Nangong Chen with disdain in his heart. So what if a red dragon pulls a card? It's still an ugly monster that can't be seen by others. It can only show this hypocritical face. I don't know if it has lived for tens of thousands of years. But to be honest, even he himself was a little jealous of the other man's appearance. He was simply not on the same level as other men. If he had such a good-looking face, how many women would throw themselves at him? Just when his lust was at its peak, and he was fantasizing about sex, his eyes happened to meet Nangong Chen's. The next moment, he howled in agony and fell to his knees, feeling as if his soul was being torn apart. Chapter 400, I don't want to repeat it a second time. Damn it, old monster, aren't you just relying on your age and experience? If we were on the same starting line, I'd kill you. He roared madly in his heart. Such a sudden change also attracted the attention of many people present. What's going on? Did Heisheng offend that powerful person? A man from the wilderness asked in confusion. Oh, didn't you see that Heisheng's eyes were almost glaring at the other woman's face? He totally deserved it. Some people sneered and responded. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone suddenly realized what was going on. The happiest people at this moment were none other than the Wuling clan. They clapped and cheered when they saw that Heisheng had achieved his goal. Let Heisheng, who's been doing evil things in the wilderness, hit a wall. If you look at me again, I'll dig out your eyes. Zhu Ying said coldly that she was gentle to Nangong Chen, but that didn't mean she had no bottom line or temper. Outside, she is still the extremely powerful saint of the Tianjin Holy Land. When Head saw this, his heart trembled. He knew that this was a warning from the other party. But even so, he still forced a smile. My son is still young and doesn't understand things. I hope you two will calm down. I will definitely discipline him after I return. Nangong Chen ignored him, but turned his gaze to Yu Russian beside him and said, Long time no see. I didn't expect to meet an old acquaintance here. Yu Russian was stunned. He didn't expect that the other party still remembered him. He was immediately extremely excited. You still remember me? After hearing this, Nangong Chen felt speechless. It's only been a short time. How could I not remember? What's the blood at the corner of your mouth? Nangong Chen said lightly, his eyes inadvertently glancing at the corner of his mouth. After hearing this, Yu Russian's expression suddenly darkened. He hesitated for a moment and glanced at the Heidi father and son beside him. The injuries I received while sparring with the young master of the Black Wind clan are not serious. As soon as these words were spoken, the tense expressions of Heidi and Heisheng immediately relaxed, and they breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the other party did not tell anyone what had just happened. He's quite capable. Nangong Chen took it all in, his eyes flashing as he muttered to himself. There was an inexplicable meaning in his tone, and I didn't know who he was talking to. Obviously, he knew there was something fishy going on. Heisheng chuckled, thinking the other party was praising him. No, senior, you are wrong. Had her on the side, sensed something was wrong, and quickly gave him a look, signaling him to shut up. Phew! At this moment, two cries of birds were heard in the void. Then, the figures of an old man and a young boy landed steadily from the sky to the ground. Below the arena, the Wuling people looked delighted after seeing the two people clearly. It's Master Lan and the others. They're back. That's right. These two people are Lan Mo and Lan Xian who came here late. It turned out that just now, Nangong Chen sensed that the situation had changed, so he sped up and arrived here one step ahead of them. Lan Mo breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Nangong Chen standing on the stage. Fortunately, the other party did not miss it and successfully caught up. Brother, what are you doing? On the other side, After seeing Lan Jia like this, Lan Xun opened her mouth and her beautiful eyes were full of disbelief. After hearing this, Lan Mo quickly turned his head away, his pupils shrinking slightly. Going out for a while, and your own grandson was crippled by someone else? Who is it? There was a hint of anger in his eyes. He knew his grandson's character best. He would never take the initiative to provoke others. It must be someone else who took the initiative to destroy him. What kind of hatred must be so great that the genius of their Wuling clan could be destroyed into this state? Upon hearing this, the excitement of the Wuling people disappeared completely, and they fell silent. Seeing this, Lan Mo flashed in front of Lan Linchuan, his eyes red, gritted his teeth, and said in a deep voice, "Lan Linchuan, tell me, who is it?" When he saw Lan Linchuan's black hair had turned completely white, a look of shock flashed across his eyes, and he wanted to know more and more what happened after they went out. Lan Linchuan clenched his fists, his face looking somewhat powerless as he muttered, "A few days ago, the Black Wind clan came and their foreign aide, Xiang Kunlun, crippled Jia." After he finished speaking, Lan Mo's heart was shocked, and he understood a lot in an instant. He clenched his fists, and his eyes were filled with anger. Lan Linchuan quickly grabbed him and said, "Don't be impulsive. Xiang Kunlun is no ordinary man. His strength far exceeds ours." Lan Mo suppressed his anger, his eyes full of grievance, and looked at Xiang Kunlun, who was standing high above him in the arena with great unwillingness. At this moment, the terrifying sword intent made Lan Mo's body tremble slightly, as if constantly warning him of the gap between himself and the other party. He hated his own incompetence and his weak cultivation. It was because of this that his grandson was abandoned by others. If he became a saint, who in the whole wilderness would dare to look down on them? Who would dare to attack them? In an instant, Lan Mo seemed to have aged a lot. His eyes, which had been bright and lively before, were now dim, and his body seemed to be shaky. But fortunately, Lan Xian quickly supported him and called out, "Grandpa." Lan Mo finally came to his senses, as if he had thought of something, and cast his eyes on the ring. At this time, on the stage, Xiang Kunlun stood in the east and said quietly, "We've been procrastinating for so long. Now the reinforcements from the Nangong clan have arrived. Chief He, it's time to start the wilderness competition." He did not have the same concerns as Head, who was always hesitant and acted like a sissy. Even if the foreign aide from the Wuling tribe was the one with double pupils, so what? He was just a little kid. What threat could he pose? After saying this, Hyde's expression changed slightly, but his eyes showed some hesitation. He looked at Nangong Chen and said, "Senior, are you really the foreign aide of the Black Wind clan?" As soon as these words were spoken, not only Yang Zhen and Su Rue on the stage looked on curiously, but all the cultivators from the 3 states present in the audience also did not dare to blink, for fear of missing something. Even Yu Russian, who was standing beside him, had fiery eyes and was full of curiosity. He also wanted to know the other party's answer. Others don't know Nangong Chen's true identity, but they know that he is not just a senior, but the most amazing genius in the history of Xintian domain. Moreover, Nangong Chen's background is also very powerful. He is the prince of the Divine Dynasty. The previous battle with the Blood God cult and the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty still brought a lot of shock to the Xintian realm. Under such circumstances, the first thing the person with double pupils did after he was born was to come for the wilderness competition. It was really absurd. What is it about this wild competition that attracts each other? You know, this wilderness competition has always been a contest between quasi-saints competing for the opportunity to enter the heart-refining pool. It is very valuable, and there has never been an experience of a genius participating. If the opponent is really a foreign aide from the Nangong tribe, then today will definitely go down in history as the first time in history that a genius has participated in a competition of this level. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Nangong Chen's tone was slightly cold, and the corners of his mouth twitched. I don't want to repeat myself a second time. After receiving this accurate answer, the entire arena suddenly became much quieter. Recently, Head's expression was stiff, and he seemed a little embarrassed. Yang Zhen and Su Rue on the stage had slightly changed expressions, and their eyes flickered. The remaining Yu Russian, as well as all the cultivators from the 3 states present, suddenly felt their pupils shrink and took a deep breath. The person with double pupils is really here to participate in this wild competition. You know, in the history of the wilderness competition, there has never been a genius participating. The one with double pupils is the first one, breaking history. For a moment, these people all had the same thought in their minds. So where did the other party get the confidence from? How could they dare to do that? In their memories, the other party was just a divine king. But here, even the quasi-saint is just the threshold for the competition. On the other side, the top leaders of the 3 major families close to the arena showed deep fear in their eyes after seeing the reactions of these people. Although they did not understand who the other party was and could not sense his aura, they could judge from the reactions of these cultivators from the 3 states that the identity of the young man on the ring was definitely not simple in the outside world. It's very likely an old monster in the quasi-saint realm, or perhaps that terrifying saint. They still remember vividly the scene of the other party riding a dragon. Chapter 401. I beg the prince to avenge my clan. 4,000 words. Are you sure it's just a teenager? Yu Qiong looked at this scene, her beautiful eyes flashing, and she murmured, as if remembering what Lan Hai said yesterday. She also couldn't understand the other party's aura and couldn't judge the other party's strength. But since the other party dared to step onto the stage of the wilderness competition, his strength must be considerable. If the other party is not some terrifying old monster, but is really the young man that Lan Hai mentioned, then this is not a simple matter. But what made her even more curious was the identity of the other party that would cause this arrogant monk from the 3 states to react like this. After a while, that Hyde took a deep breath with a look of deep confusion and said, Senior, with all due respect, you were most likely deceived by the Nangong tribe and chose to be their foreign aid. How about this, Senior? As long as you don't participate in this wilderness competition this time, I will give you 5 times the reward that the wilderness clan gave you afterwards. But when the words fell, the people of the Wuling tribe could no longer sit still and stood up one after another. Heidi, what do you mean? You even dare to poach our foreign players? How shameless! Lan Linchuan scolded angrily. What's the meaning? Head smiled, a very cold smile, and said slowly, To put it bluntly, the Wuling people, are worthy of being this lord's foreign aid. You must have used some means unknown to us to deceive this lord. Then, he looked at Nangong Chen and said sincerely, Sir, if you trust me, if you don't participate this time, or just stand by and watch, I will give you 5 times the reward offered by the Wuling clan. As soon as these words were spoken, Lan Linchuan and others became furious. Their faces turned red with anger, and they were unable to utter a word. They had never seen such a shameless person. At this moment, everyone present was staring at the figure in the snow-covered clothes, their hearts full of admiration for the fact that he could actually cause the 2 great wild families to fight against each other. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Nangong Chen smiled meaningfully and said with a hint of sarcasm, 5 times the reward. Are you sure you can afford it? Nature, Head said with a solemn oath. He just didn't believe that the shabby Wuling tribe could come up with anything good. Very well, then. Here are 25 sacred herbs and 25,000 immortal crystals. Bring them now, Nangong Chen said calmly. After he finished speaking, Hyde's smile froze, as if he had heard it wrong. His eyes widened with disbelief. What? 25 sacred herbs, plus 25,000 immortal crystals? Even if he sold the entire Black Wind clan, he still couldn't come up with that much money. Similarly, everyone present was shocked after hearing this. Even in the outside world, those conditions are considered huge sums, enough to empty the wealth of an entire force, or even far more. How is this possible? How could the Wuling clan possibly come up with 5 sacred herbs and 5,000 immortal crystals? Head was stunned for a long time, unable to suppress the shock in his heart. The conditions offered were 5 times what he offered to Xiang Kunlun. At this moment, even the other 2 families, the Tianyuan clan and the Yu clan, were greatly shocked after hearing this astonishing number. If this is true, then the Wuling clan must be crazy to offer such a great condition to invite foreign aid. On the stage, the expressions of several quasi-saints were uncertain, with some regret in their eyes. The other party is just a genius, but that aristocratic family actually offered such astonishing conditions. If they had known this earlier, who would be willing to stay with the power behind them? If they went to the Wuling tribe, they might be able to get more generous conditions. For a moment, there was some indignation in the eyes of Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen. Su Rui didn't feel anything, and his face remained calm. How was that impossible? Aren't you going to offer 5 times the price? Go ahead and do it. Taking this opportunity, Lan Linchuan also sneered. At the same time, they felt relieved and glad for the decision they made. Heidi took a deep breath, but still had some evil intentions. He looked at Nangong Chen and said, Look, Senior, I'll offer you twice the conditions. As long as you don't participate, I'll give you one first, and then another one after the matter is completed. 10 holy medicines and 10,000 immortal crystals were already the maximum conditions he could offer, and his heart was bleeding. After he finished speaking, everyone was a little shocked. This was also a considerable amount of money. If it were an ordinary person, they would have agreed to it long ago. On the stage, Nangong Chen just chuckled, his eyes filled with contempt, shook his head, and said no more. Although he cared about the holy medicine and immortal crystals, he would not accept ill-gotten gains. Besides, he had already promised the Nangong tribe. From the other party's reaction just now, we can also see the sincerity of the Wuling clan. They have really invested a lot of money, and it is possible that they have emptied their entire family assets just to invite him this time. Since this is the case, he can't just sell others out and join someone else. Besides, the leader of the Black Wind clan doesn't look like a good person. The few extra words I said just now were just to tease the other person. Seeing him like this, the people of the Wuling tribe breathed a sigh of relief and were moved. Fortunately, the senior person we invited was honest and trustworthy and was not bribed by the other party. On the other side, Xiang Kunlun, upon hearing this, could no longer stand still. His face darkened as he spoke. Heidi, what do you mean by this? Giving him 10 sacred herbs and 10,000 immortal crystals as a junior divine king, but only 1 sacred herb and 1,000 immortal crystals for me? I want you to give me an explanation. As he spoke, the sword intent surged and erupted uncontrollably. Young divine king, head froze in place, muttering as if he was in disbelief. Not only him, but even the people from the wilderness present, including the Wuling tribe and others, were stunned for a moment. Xiang Kunlun saw this and immediately understood something. A hint of sarcasm appeared in his eyes. Why? Don't you know that this boy is just a descendant of the divine king realm? After he finished speaking, Head clenched his fists and his expression gradually became gloomy. So this senior he had just been fawning over was actually just a junior at the divine king level? Telling him the truth now would undoubtedly make him feel like he had eaten shit. However, he was riding a red dragon at the saint level, and he couldn't afford to offend someone with such a background, even if the other party had just deceived him. Of course, the other party looked so young now, yet he had already reached the level of God King. To be honest, it was a little hard for him to believe. Thinking of this, Heidi could only take a deep breath, letting himself suffer a loss in vain, and then looked at the gnawing people and said sarcastically, "You're so bold. You've spent so much money just to invite a divine king." Not far away, Tuha, the chief of the Tian tribe, also breathed a sigh of relief, with a hint of disdain flashing in his eyes. At this moment, the people present were in an uproar and talking about it. What? That young man is really just a genius, and not some old monster. I was almost fooled by him. He's only at the divine king level, yet he dares to participate in the wilderness competition. He's the first one to do so. Ha ha ha, God is really helping me. At first, I thought the Wuling tribe was lucky, but now it seems that they are still as brainless as before. That's right, they actually paid such a high price to hire such a foreign aide. Most of those who spoke were from the Tianyuan and Heaven tribes, who had always been unhappy with the Wuling tribe. Now, seeing that they finally had a chance to step on the other party, they quickly surrounded him like hyenas seeing food. On the other hand, when the Wuling tribe members learned the truth, their faces were filled with shock. They thought that since Lan Mo and his team had been gone for such a long time, they would have to invite at least a quasi-saint realm expert to come over, but they didn't expect that it was just a god king. Although the opponent looks very young and must have extraordinary talent, this is the wilderness competition. Who would go easy on you just because you are young? It's simply a fantasy. It's over. Some members of the tribe had despair on their faces and murmured, as if they had already seen the decline of the Wuling tribe. Lan Linchuan frowned slightly, very dissatisfied with their behavior. After all, the young man's strength was witnessed by him, Lan Mo, and others in Chu City that day, so it was naturally impossible for them to do business at a loss. What's the point of that? You're just following the wind. Do you really believe what others say? Lan Linchuan scolded. Then he looked at Nangong Chen and smiled helplessly. My dear Nangong, I'm sorry to have embarrassed you. They didn't go to Chu City that day, so they don't know your depth. We haven't even started fighting yet. How can you destroy his own prestige and boost others' fighting spirit? He's very powerful. We saw him kill quite a few quasi-saints that day. Lan Xen also nodded in testimony, her face a little pouty, her three-color horse-face skirt swaying slightly. After these words were spoken, Lan Mo and Lan Jia couldn't help but nod slightly. To be honest, they have been conservative enough. If these tribesmen knew about Nangong Chen's battle record, they would probably be so shocked that they would faint on the spot. After hearing this, the high-ranking members of the Wuling tribe gradually came to their senses and bowed to Nangong Chen to apologize. Excuse me, sir. I lost my composure just now. We didn't mean any other harm. No problem. Nangong Chen shook his head slightly and said in a calm voice. When Zhuing saw this scene, her beautiful eyes flashed with surprise, and she secretly sighed that Nangong Chen's mind was incomparable to ordinary people. At the same time, the monks from the 3 states present also spoke one after another. These barbarians are truly ignorant. They actually dare to look down on a genius with 9-star talent. Little do they know that this may be the only chance in your life to see someone with double pupils. Yes, if I were you, I would cherish it. After all, he is the first person in history who dared to participate in the wilderness competition at the divine king level. Even if I don't know him, I admire him for doing things that we dare not do. Forget it. What's the point of saying anything to them? Seeing someone with double pupils here today is beyond our expectations. It's a huge win. These monks from various states also strongly support those with double pupils and cannot bear to see others mocking them. On the ring, after hearing these words, Head's face became a little gloomy. The young man in front of him seemed to be even more weird than he had imagined. He immediately sent a message to Xiang Kunlun, asking him not to underestimate the other party and to give him an extra holy medicine after the matter was accomplished. Xiang Kunlun readily agreed and vowed that the other party would not be his match in a single move. After hearing this, Head felt relieved. It was because he still trusted Xiang Kunlun's strength. After all, the title of being the #1 person under the saint is not just an exaggeration. Since that's the case, the wilderness competition is about to begin. Please step back below the arena. Head said in a deep voice, not daring to say anything harsh to Nangong Chen. Soon, Zhu Ying, Yu Russian, and others retreated one after another. Only Xiang Kunlun, Yang Zhen, Su Ruei, and Nangong Chen were left on the stage. Everyone around was excited, wondering if it was finally going to begin. No one expected that apart from the focus battle between Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen, there would be such a surprise at this event, which was the arrival of the person with double pupils. However, people have different opinions on what achievements those with double pupils can achieve in this wild competition. Some people believe that it will definitely continue its brilliant performance and win the championship. Some people also believe that those with double pupils are just divine kings. Although they have extraordinary talent, they are still too young. In this competition among the strong, they will have no advantage and will most likely be ranked last. After all, Xiang Kunlun, Yang Zhen, and others who came today are all top-notch masters. The strength and experience they possess are far beyond the reach of those geniuses. What's more, these are the top powerful people in the quasi-saint realm. On the arena, each tribe was making final preparations, which was for the tribe leader to personally hand over the key of the wilderness to his own foreign aide. The rules of this competition are also related to the key of the wilderness. A core arena is divided out in the center of the arena. Anyone who can defend the arena within 2 hours will be the champion of the wilderness competition. During this period, if the defender fails, he will hand over his wilderness key to the winner. On the Black Wind clan side, Heidi personally handed 2 amber-like tokens to Xiang Kunlun. On one of them, the 3 words Wuling clan were clearly written. Obviously, that was the key to the wilderness that the Wuling clan had lost to the enemy. On the other side, the patriarchs of the 2 major families, Tuha and Yuqiong, also handed over the key to the wilderness to their own foreign aide. Only Lan Linchuan had nothing in his hands and smiled awkwardly at Nangong Chen. Nangong Chen did not say anything about this, but just cast his eyes on the other tokens. Through his double pupils, he could clearly see that there were scattered scriptures on them, with golden veins flowing, which was extremely magical. According to legend, the key to the wilderness contains the skills left by the ancient emperor, and it is also 1/4 of the wheel of samsara. By the way, Prince, I have one more favor to ask of you. At this moment, Lan Imo stepped forward and said with some hesitation, "But it's okay." Nangong Chen spoke. Soon, Lan Mabian told Nangong Chen what happened to the Wuling clan a few days ago. His grandson was killed by Xiang Kunlun himself, leaving behind a lingering sword aura, and he was in agony. "I beg the prince to avenge my clan." Lan Imo knelt on one knee and said through gritted teeth. At this moment, not only him but all the people of the Wuling clan knelt down, their eyes red, and spoke in unison. After hearing this, Nangong Chen's eyes turned cold and he nodded slightly. He had a good impression of the Wuling clan, but he didn't expect the Black Wind clan to be so domineering. They would come to cripple people for a disagreement, and even forcibly kidnap the clan leader's daughter as a concubine. Although he had nothing to do with these things, since he had accepted the money as their foreign aid, he could not sit idly by. And at this moment, a voice sounded from his mind. "Sensing host has arrived at the wilderness competition. Would you like to sign in?" Nangong Chen's eyes flickered, but he didn't show much surprise. He responded calmly, "Sign in." Chapter 402, Emperor's Heart Sutra. Ding. Trigger a specific scene and receive the Human Emperor Heart Sutra as a reward. As the crisp sound disappeared, a mysterious memory flooded into Nangong Chen's mind like a tide. Dragon energy protects the heart. The imperial way nurtures the soul. This is the way of the human emperor. The majestic power of heaven suppresses evil spirits, and the dignified emperor pacifies the troubled times. 2 lines of small words instantly appeared in Nangong Chen's sight. For a moment, Nangong Chen seemed to see an invincible person, with dragon energy wrapped around his body. Majesty overflowed when he raised his hand. He stood on the road of the human world, with all the people submitting to him and all living beings worshipping him. With just one thought, heaven and earth can resonate, command the way of heaven, and kill all-powerful enemies. Nangong Chen was shocked. After a brief understanding, he realized that this was a divine-level mental method. The mental method is the rarest product in the 9 heavens and 10 realms. Not only because there are few people who practice the way of the soul, but also because the attainments required for the way of the soul are extremely high. As for Nangong Chen, he has never learned any mental method so far. It's not that he doesn't want to learn, but the mental methods in the Shintian realm are too superficial, and it won't be of much use if he learns them. The ancients emphasized the practice of 3 paths simultaneously, namely, the spirit and soul, the body, and the divine image. Nowadays, with the changing of times, due to the decline of the spiritual path, people's cultivation has gradually split into 2 paths, namely the cultivation of the physical body and the cultivation of the divine image. However, not much attention was paid to the soul, which led to the fact that the technique of attacking the soul became scarce and precious in this era. Not to mention good methods of killing souls. The appearance of any copy will cause a shock in the Shintian domain, and even the upper realms will regard the art of soul killing as a secret method. This is why, although Wanxin's strength is weaker than the other 4, he can become the 4th seat by relying on a mediocre heart sutra. There is no other reason. In this day and age, there are too few techniques that can resist the soul. More people have even given up the soul and used magic weapons to deal with it. However, spiritual tools are often too precious and ordinary people cannot afford them, which makes those who practice spiritual arts extremely popular and reap the benefits. Just imagine, in the middle of a battle, someone kills you without anyone noticing, even before they make a move. How terrifying that would be. Now, although Nangong Chen has many spiritual magic weapons in his hands, they're just magic weapons after all, and are far less reassuring than being powerful personally. Coincidentally, this Heart Sutra makes up for Nangong Chen's shortcoming in this aspect. Even if the Human Emperor Heart Sutra is cultivated to the peak, it can resonate with the heaven and earth, control the way of heaven to kill, behead immortals, and kill gods. At the same time, the Heart Sutra of the Human Emperor was also a symbol of status in ancient times, and only the descendants of the Human Emperor could practice it. But for some unknown reason, the Human Emperor disappeared 3 times, and this method disappeared. Also disappearing were the other 2 of the 3 great masters of the Human Emperor, the Human Emperor's Samsara Disc and the Human Emperor's Sword. These 3 are all treasures. If they were placed in the 9 heavens, they would attract the old monsters of the big sects to fight for them. And now, in addition to the Human Emperor's Reincarnation Disc, Nangong Chen has collected 2 of the Human Emperor's 3 wonders. He already knew the horror of the Human Emperor's Sword, and the Human Emperor Heart Sutra was certainly no less terrifying. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen couldn't help but feel excited. With his spirit, body, and divine image developing simultaneously, he will surely reach a peak that even the ancients have never reached. Soon, thanks to the terrifying comprehension of Hongming Dao fruit, Nangong Chen comprehended some of the Human Emperor Heart Sutra. There was already a faint dragon aura entwined within his soul. Although it was rare, it gave people an indescribable majesty. Nangong Chen opened his eyes, and between his dark pupils, a flash of golden dragon energy suddenly appeared, causing the void to tremble. On the other side, the quasi-saint who had tied the keys of the wilderness of each tribe around his waist was suddenly shocked and turned around. It's strange. Why does this boy give them a different feeling than before? Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen frowned slightly, thinking in their hearts, but they did not notice the source of the amazing aura just now. If we say that Nangong Chen gave people the feeling of being ethereal and having an ethereal temperament at the beginning, he was like a banished immortal. Now, Nangong Chen has a kind of oppressive aura that is somewhat dazzling, as if a young emperor has descended to the world. On the other side, Heidi also noticed some changes in Nangong Chen, but he didn't care too much. He shook his head and said, "Now that we're ready, let's begin. The rules are the same as in previous years. Whoever holds the central aperture at the end of 2 hours will be the champion." As soon as he finished speaking, a burst of light burst out from the central core of the huge ancient wooden arena, and at the same time, the area of several miles surrounded by the light was revealed to the world. When the monks from the 3 states present saw this, their pupils shrank slightly. This ancient wooden arena is so magical. Yes, I can't imagine how dazzling it would be if I were to stand in the light. There was envy in their eyes, and they wished they could win the championship themselves. But it was just wishful thinking. After all, even the quasi-saint level was a low point in the wilderness competition. So how could it be their turn? As the wilderness competition officially began, the 3 quasi-saints on the stage did not move, but watched with calm expressions. After all, no one wants to be the first champion. If they consume too much energy, it will be extremely difficult for them to defend the title in the second half, and they may even be at risk of being eliminated. Therefore, Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen, who were expected to win the championship before the game, were rarely humble to each other at this moment. Senior Xiang, you are older and I am younger. Out of respect for your age, you should be the champion first. Yang Zhen bowed and spoke, dressed in a flowing purple robe and with an elegant demeanor. He didn't look like a man who had lived for thousands of years. This action also attracted the attention of many beautiful women in the audience. After hearing this, Xiang Kunlun raised his eyebrows and quickly waved his hand to refuse. No, that's wrong. As the saying goes, as a junior, I have to let you be the champion first. Otherwise, if you are in the outside world, what if others say that I bullied you? This little thing may look impressive, but it actually has a lot of tricks up its sleeve. If it wants to cheat me, no way. Xiang Kunlun narrowed his eyes and made a gesture of invitation. Seeing his stubborn attitude, Yang Zhen cursed him inwardly, but on the surface he still wore a smile and turned to look at Su Rue in the south. How about this? Why not let Senior Su take the lead as the champion? After all, Senior Su is from the Holy Land. In terms of status and qualifications, he is the elder here. It's perfect for him to be the first to take the lead. After he finished speaking, Xiang Kunlun's eyes lit up. He looked at him with some admiration and echoed. That's true. Although there are rumors outside that we are the favorites to win, they don't know that fellow Taoist Su is an elder from the Heavenly Array Holy Land. His strength should not be underestimated. Compared to Elder Su, we are still a little immature. It is hard to imagine that such shameless words could come from the mouth of an old man who is over 8,000 years old. However, just when they thought Su Rue would be in a dilemma, who would have thought that Su Rue was not angry at all? Instead, he looked calm and said leisurely, "It's not that I don't want to be the champion, but there's already someone else." He turned his gaze to the center, not far away. As soon as these words were spoken, Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen turned their heads to look in the direction he was looking. When they saw this scene, their faces instantly became interesting. In the center of the arena, surrounded by light, Nangong Chen stood with his hands behind his back, his snow-white clothes fluttering in the wind. Against the backdrop of the rosy glow around him, he looked like a young god. Why did he go there? Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen's pupils suddenly shrank. Around the arena, everyone's expressions were not much better. I didn't expect that the one with double pupils will be the first to go up and become the champion. Doesn't he know that the rules of the wilderness competition don't give the first person to go up a little advantage? Yes, based on past experience, the first champion to enter the ring is usually the first to be eliminated. He will have to face a round-robin battle. Oh no, this person probably didn't know about these experiences before he came here. Now it's too late to quit even if he wants to. Someone shook his head, his eyes full of pessimism. It's not that they don't trust the person with double pupils, but as the first person to defend the ring, he has the greatest pressure. What's more, the person with double pupils is a genius and does not have much advantage among these experienced and powerful people. If the people who came on stage today were geniuses, perhaps they would still believe that they were sure of success, but this was the wilderness competition. Hyde's face was full of smiles, but he tried hard not to laugh out loud and looked at Lan Linchuan beside him. You guys are really cheating me. How can you go up there without even knowing the rules? Where did this fool come from? He really thinks that being the first one to go up will give him the advantage? Head laughed in his heart, as if he had already seen the other party's miserable defeat. Beside him, Heisheng's expression was equally interesting, with a hint of mockery on his grumpy face. When he first knew that the other party was a genius of the same generation, he felt a little inferior. After all, he was not as strong as the other party, nor was his family background as good as the other party. Even in terms of appearance, the other party was slightly better. This made him look completely dull in front of the other party, like a pile of dirt on the side of the road. Now it seems that there is some comparability. At least if he were the other party, he would not be so stupid as to go up and become a champion. On the other side, too, he also couldn't suppress the corner of his mouth, and said sarcastically, as expected of a foreign aid from a big force, "It really is extraordinary." Even Yu Qiong frowned slightly when she saw this scene. She was a little confused as to why the other party wanted to go up first. Logically speaking, the opponent here is the weakest, so we should seize the last moment and challenge him last, so that there will be a chance. But now that I've gone up, I can't retreat on my own initiative. It's already a dead end. Thinking of this, she shook her head, and a hint of disappointment appeared on her dignified and beautiful face. She originally thought that the other party could bring her some surprises, but now it seems that he is just a young man from a powerful force. On the other side of the Wuling clan, Lan Linchuan looked very embarrassed. He ignored them, turned to look at Lan Imo, and said in a deep voice, "Didn't you tell each other about previous events on the way here?" I said. Lan Imo nodded, also a little confused. even didn't know why the other party wanted to go up first. Although they all knew that Nangong Chen's strength should not be underestimated and that he had the potential to win the championship, the prerequisite was that he would only go up to the ring under the last circumstances. And now, the wilderness competition has just begun, and the opponent has already gone up. It will be as difficult as climbing to the sky if he wants to win the championship later. He sighed inwardly, and after a while, he said he should have his own ideas. Zhu Ying beside her nodded slightly, a hint of approval on her delicate face. You're right, my master has his own ideas. The more time I spent with Nangong Chen and the more in-depth the communication, the more I realized how extraordinary the young man was. What's more, he was an ancestor-level figure in his previous life, so how could he act rashly? Hearing the two say this, Lan Linchuan calmed down a bit, but he was still extremely worried. He said it's still too hasty. On the ring, Xiang Kunlun's face was a little gloomy, and he said, It's true that heroes emerge from youth. I admire your courage, but I still want to warn the younger generation here. If a tree stands tall in the wind will surely destroy it. Not everything that comes to the fore is a good thing. There was a strong sense of dissatisfaction in his tone. No matter how he tried to refute Yang Zhen, that was the business of the strong people of their generation. It will be a junior's turn. The other party's actions undoubtedly ignored them and did not take them seriously at all. On the other side, Yang Zhen smiled with a hint of joking. He originally thought that this person with double pupils was a big shot, but now it seems that he is just an ordinary person. He wanted to see if this person with double pupils' love of showing off could work here. Similarly, Nangong Chen's actions made him very unhappy. When Su Rue saw this scene, he shook his head secretly and was obviously not optimistic about Nangong Chen. He said himself, he is still too naive. However, despite saying this, Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen showed no signs of going on stage. Nangong Chen saw this scene, and he was leisurely. His face was not disturbed at all. He turned to look at Xiang Kunlun, and a hint of ridicule appeared at the corner of his mouth. Just because you're an old loser who's lived for thousands of years and made no progress, you think you're qualified to warn me? At this moment, this cold voice fell, and everyone present fell silent instantly. Everyone's eyes widened, filled with disbelief. What did the man with double pupils say? He actually called Xiang Kunlun an old waste? You know, the other party is the number one person under the saint. Even the top leaders of the four major families present were stunned, as if they had heard wrongly. Not long after, a chilling murderous intent erupted from the arena, extremely cold. What did you say? Xiang Kunlun's hair stood on end, his eyes were cold, and he gritted his teeth as he spoke every word. He was the number one person under the saint, the grand elder of the Jade Sky Sword sect, and yet the other party was just a yellow-haired kid, and he actually dared to call him a waste. At the same time, the terrifying sword intent enveloped the entire arena, causing the surrounding cultivators to take a few steps back. On the other side, after Yang Zhen reacted, the corners of his mouth raised with a playful look on his face. He didn't expect that Nangong Chen was so courageous to say what he had always wanted to say. But being young and reckless has its price. Chapter 4:03 Has he always been like this? By the way, and you, what are you laughing at? You are also an old loser. Nangong Chen had not forgotten Yang Zhen. He turned around and said lightly. Before Yang Zhen could react, Nangong Chen spoke again, with a look of disappointment on his face. I thought this wilderness competition would be of some interest to me, but I didn't expect it to be filled with empty-headed people who still call themselves strong. They're simply worthless. If the Shantian realm were all strong people like you, then we would be completely useless. After these words were spoken, not only did the smile on Yang Zhen's face freeze, but everyone present was also stunned, their minds blank. At this moment, there was only one thought in the minds of this group of people, that is, something was going to happen to the person with double pupils. Even the people of the Wuling clan below the arena were shocked. Lan Linchuan was even a little speechless and looked at Zhu Ying beside him. Has he always been this fearless? Lan Mo, Lan Xin, and others also looked at Zhu Ying, wanting to confirm as well. Zhu Ying was speechless for a moment. She had only been with Nangong Chen for a short time and was unable to give him an accurate answer. Yes, he has always been like this. Unexpectedly, Yu Russian, who had been silent all the time, spoke up with a firm tone. After receiving this reply, the Wuling people and others were speechless. They actually invited such a powerful person over? The next moment, a shadow flashed across the ring, carrying an extreme coldness. Xiang Kunlun landed steadily on the central stage, his eyes unable to conceal the murderous intent, and said, What a brat you are! You speak so recklessly and with such arrogance. Today, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your divine dynasty, so that you will understand the difference between respect and inferiority. The last person who threatened to teach me a lesson has had grass growing on his grave as tall as you. Nangong Chen smiled, and his double pupils opened and closed with an astonishing aura. His tone was calm, as if he was telling a fact that could not be true. Xiang Kunlun was stunned. When had he ever been told this by anyone? Then, after realizing what was happening, his expression darkened. This isn't Eastern Shenzhou. It's an extremely remote and desolate place. If anything happens, no one can protect you. The threat in his words was extremely strong. Even if the other party was the prince of the divine dynasty, he couldn't humiliate him like this. He had to teach Nangong Chen a painful lesson today, to let him know what it meant to be better than others. You're right. This is the wilderness. If anything happens to you, no one can protect you. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, glanced at him, and said with some agreement. After he finished speaking, Xiang Kunlun's face froze. He could no longer bear it, and 3 long swords flew out into the air. At the same time, the terrifying aura of the quasi-saint peak was released without reservation. In an instant, the void trembled and the sword rang crisply. 3 extraordinary spiritual swords clanged and circled in the void, carrying a man-eating sword intent. Some people even saw from the sword shadow an astonishing vision of mountains breaking and stars collapsing. After seeing this scene, a strong man present had his pupils shrink and exclaimed in surprise. This is one of the Jade Sky Sword sect's most powerful skills, the 3 Ling Tian swords. I never thought Xiang Kunlun would be able to use it to this extent. The 3 spiritual swords were almost under Xiang Kunlun's control. They were orderly, condensing the sword energy with a cold and sharp light. There was a terrifying power on each sword tip. Obviously, without a good command of the sword, it would be difficult to perform this terrifying skill. This also indirectly reflects the extraordinary sword intent of Xiang Kunlun. At this moment, all the monks present were worried and looked towards the direction where Nangong Chen was. So far, no one has been able to withstand Xiang Kunlun's unique skill. You know, those 3 magic swords were carried by Xiang Kunlun all year round, and the sword power contained in them was simply unimaginable. Interesting. Nangong Chen took a look and commented casually. This move of the opponent is somewhat like a weakening of his 10,000 swords immortal art. If you don't show your hand, you'll lose your life today. When Xiang Kunlun saw this, he sneered, waved his sleeves, and attacked without mercy. In an instant, 3 spiritual swords burst in a white light, broke through the air, and slashed towards Nangong Chen. His sword skills have now reached a high level, and he is considered to be the best in the sword art. The title of the number 1 person under the saint is not something that comes out of thin air. Today, this little boy will have to pay the price. However, the next moment, he was dumbfounded. As soon as the words fell, the young man in white clothes' eyes flashed with cold lightning, and an even more astonishing sword intent burst out from his body. In an instant, countless immortal swords appeared from nowhere, rising from the ground and soaring into the sky. A rain of swords swirled in the sky, making a clanging sound. It was even louder and crisper than Xiang Kunlun's 3 swords, and seemed to have the momentum of the king of all weapons. Nangong Chen had an indifferent expression, his feet standing in the void, his white clothes swaying, his black hair dancing, just like a young sword immortal in the world, his every move exuding a terrifying sword intent. Behind him, 300 immortal swords shone with sharp edges, and the cold light penetrated into the bones. At this moment, Xiang Kunlun's 3 spiritual swords were like a dwarf meeting a giant compared to the sword rain in the sky. They were completely on the same level. Gulong. Some people couldn't help but swallow their saliva secretly and broke out in a cold sweat. Just by seeing this scene, it was as if a sharp sword breath was whistling past my ears, as if it was going to tear me apart. This feeling of oppression is far beyond what the 3 Ling Tian swords cast by Xiang Kunlun could bring. Even the sneer on Yang Zhan's lips froze, his face full of disbelief. It was the first time he saw someone who could suppress Xiang Kunlun in swordsmanship. How was that possible? Xiang Kunlun was stunned and speechless. How could the other party, a mere junior, be able to control these 300 immortal swords so skillfully? Even for him, the supreme elder of Yuxiao sword sect, controlling 3 swords is already his limit so far. This also means that the opponent's sword intent is far superior to his. But there is no other way. The arrow is on the string. We have to go. At this moment, even though Xiang Kunlun had a thought of retreating in his heart, he could not retreat like this in front of so many people. You're playing tricks, but I'll tear your reign of sword apart with my 3 swords. Xiang Kunlun said with a stiff upper lip, making a sword gesture with his hands, without holding back at all, going all out. Then the 3 spirit swords soared up, bursting out with powerful sword energy, and slashed towards a young man in the sky at an extremely fast speed. It was so fast that people couldn't even see the shadow, and could only vaguely see a flash of light passing through the pupil. Chapter 404, Where did this monster come from? Yeah. Only a cold voice was heard faintly. The next moment, everyone's pupils suddenly shrank, as if they had seen a miracle. 300 immortal swords fell together, like a white jade waterfall crashing down, carrying with them a terrifying sword intent that could suppress the world for eternity. If the 3 spiritual swords were the fleeting flash of light in the night sky, then these 300 immortal swords were the stars in the vast river of the universe, so dazzling that it was almost impossible to open one's eyes. Faintly, everyone could only see a snow-white dress shining in the star rain. As the white light in his pupils faded, a shrill scream rang out from the center of the arena. Xiang Kunlun's face was pale, and his entire body was almost pierced by the magic sword, like a bloody man. The 3 magic swords in his hands also turned into fragments in this rainstorm. His pupils were filled with horror as he looked at the handsome figure in the void. If he felt correctly, the astonishing sword intent just now had reached perfection. What kind of terrifying concept is this? Although he hadn't seen the other party's performance in the Immortal Treasure, he knew that the other party was less than 100 years old. Before he even reached the 100th level, he had already reached the perfection of sword intent. This was something he could not even imagine, as he had spent nearly 10,000 years to perfect the sword art. He was a little dazed for a moment and didn't know what monster he was fighting. Besides, the other party is only a god king and has not yet entered the ranks of quasi-saints. At this moment, everyone present saw this scene on the ring. Their pupils trembled and their minds went blank. What? On the Black Wind clan side, Heidi even stood up with a look of dismay on his face. That young man actually defeated Xiang Kunlun with just one move. Where did this monster come from? Hei Sheng on the side was trembling even more, his eyes full of hope. Fortunately, he did not provoke the other party just now. Otherwise, he could not imagine how much worse the consequences would be for him than for his master on the ring. At the same time, he also had some doubts in his mind. Is this young man in white really of the same generation as them? The Tuha group sitting opposite them were equally stunned and not in a much better state. A genius like the God King could kill the famous Xiang Kunlun in just one move? On the other side of the Feather Clan, Yu Qiong remained silent. After she came to her senses, her beautiful eyes were filled with shock as she looked at Nangong Chen on the stage. This willing tribe really gave me a big surprise. After a while, Yu Qiong slowly spoke, her mature and magnetic voice filled with joy. Then, she sent a message to Su Rue on the ring, instructing him to join forces with a young man in this competition. Similarly, on the other side, the reaction of the Wuling people was not much better. After they recovered from their shock, they all looked excited and filled with emotion. The young man that Mr. Lon invited back is so terrifying. It seems we were blind before. Yeah, this is too fierce. That's Xiang Kunlun, and he's no match for that little brother's attack. As for their clan leader, Lon Linchuan, he was speechless for a long time. He seems to be stronger than we imagined. That's right. After he finished speaking, Lon Mo, Lon Xin, and Lon Jian nodded in unison, looking stunned. Especially Lon Xin and Lon Jia. The 2 young people could not hide the blazing admiration in their eyes. Not far away, Yu Russian showed a bitter expression after he realized what was happening. It seemed that the gap between him and the other party had widened. Zhu Ying's beautiful eyes flashed with surprise. It was the first time she saw someone who could use kendo so skillfully and so charmingly. He is truly worthy of being the reincarnation of the ancestor from the upper realm. She murmured to herself, her tone full of admiration. Around the ring, after that brief silence, the sound of worship rang out overwhelmingly. Those with double pupils are invincible. Those with double pupils are invincible. To be able to enter the great wilderness competition at the Divine King level and defeat a quasi-saint with a single move, this person with double pupils is simply the first person in history. I originally thought that the Blood God Cult incident would have a significant impact on him, but now it seems that those with double pupils are still as terrifying as before. That Xiang Kunlun claimed to be the best under the quasi-saint, but now it seems that he is just SOSO. I think the best under the quasi-saint should be someone with double pupils. The young monks present all showed admiration on their faces and looked at Nangong Chen as if they were seeing a god. As for the young woman, her reaction was not much better. Her eyes were shining with a strange light. Her face turned pale, and her legs were trembling slightly. She was very excited. The man with double pupils is so handsome. If I could spend the night with him, I can't even imagine how happy I would be. Yeah, that sword really touched my heart. Perhaps Nangong Chen is the only one who can be admired by young monks in the world and loved by women at the same time. Who said I lost? On the ring, Xiang Kunlun spat out a mouthful of blood with difficulty, looking at the arrogant Nangong Chen with eyes full of resentment. If it weren't for him, how could his reputation be ruined here? If he had known that this monster was coming, he would not have come to participate in this wilderness competition. Thinking of this, Xiang Kunlun showed a look of regret and swallowed a precious medicine. A powerful medicinal power evaporated from his body, slowly recovering from his injuries. The next moment, all the immortal swords that pierced his body were shaken away. Xiang Kunlun stood up, his eyes filled with anger and cold murderous intent. If he doesn't kill this yellow-haired kid today, he will not be a human being. Soon, he put his hands together, and behind him, a statue of heaven and earth suddenly condensed. When the people present saw this, they were shocked. No one expected that Xiang Kunlun still had the strength to fight again. And, if they were not mistaken, Xiang Kunlun's magic of heaven and earth was actually a grass. That's right, it's a grass, standing tall and straight, shaped like a sword, with 4 leaves on a rhizome, emitting infinite sword intent. After seeing this, a strong man also exclaimed, "I remember now. This is the 4-leaf sword grass, a descendant of the 9-leaf sword grass, one of the 10 evils of ancient times. It's hard to believe that this Kunlun's law of heaven and earth is actually imitating it. Although it's not as powerful as the 9-leaf sword grass itself, it shouldn't be underestimated. A single blade of grass can cut down the sun, moon, and stars." When these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. They had not expected that Xiang Kunlun's Tianyuan Mansion would actually be the 4-leaf sword grass. But it is normal that they don't know. Before this, no one has ever heard of anyone being able to force out Xiang Kunlun's Tianyuan Mansion. In their impression, Nangong Chen is still the first. Amidst the exclamations, Nangong Chen on the ring had a calm expression and the aura of a banished immortal. He looked at the opponent leisurely without making any move. He had already expected that a peak quasi-saint would be far more difficult to deal with than he had imagined, so he remained calm and composed. But what made him curious was whether he could shatter the opponent's Tianyuan Mansion with just one punch. Well, let's use this 4-leaf sword grass to test it. Nangong Chen murmured in his heart. Looking at the huge 4-leaf sword grass, a glint of eagerness flashed in his eyes. Chapter 405. Dragon and Elephant Press the Stars. Break the sword light with one punch. This also made Xiang Kunlun's body cold, but when he saw Nangong Chen's eyes, a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. "If you don't summon your Fatian Xiangdi, don't blame me for not giving you a chance." He was ready to strike a fatal blow to the other party. He knew that the murderous intent he had revealed earlier would surely lead the other party's forces to not let him go. What he had to do was to strike first, and then escape into the wilderness and disappear from sight. As for the sect behind him, it doesn't matter if he doesn't have it. After all, for him, life is the most important thing. At worst, when his divine power is great, he could destroy the Tianyuan divine dynasty, and it can be regarded as revenge. Thinking of this, the coldness in his eyes deepened. After he finished speaking, just when everyone thought that Nangong Chen would also summon his Tianyuan Mansion, they were disappointed. Not only did Nangong Chen not summon it, he didn't even make any other moves. It was as if he was giving the other party a chance. Xiang Kunlun didn't care about all that and wanted to strike first. After all, those who were blocking his way to enlightenment were all enemies. The next moment, a grass leaf appeared in Xiang Kunlun's hand. He used the leaf as a sword, and with sword intent bursting out his eyes, he slashed at Nangong Chen with the sword. At the same time, the 4-leaf sword grass behind him also burst out with terrifying sword light. Wherever it goes, it tears the void and makes the space tremble. The power of this sword is far stronger than Xiang Kunlun's previous sword. It seems that a single blade of grass can cut down all the stars. All the sword cultivators present were shocked when they saw it. Obviously, Xiang Kunlun's sword already had a hint of the sword intent of the 9-leaf sword grass. Seeing that the sword light was about to fall on Nangong Chen, Nangong Chen's brows were calm, and he was enveloped in immortal light. Without dodging at all, he raised his sleeves and threw a light punch. When the monks present saw this, they were horrified. He wouldn't want to use his body to block this sword, right? How is that possible? Even the women present couldn't bear to close their eyes after seeing it, for fear of seeing such a cruel scene. Xiang Kunlun sneered in his heart, as if he had already seen the end of Nangong Chen's death. What a fool. He actually used his body to block his sword. He was certain that even a saint would be wary of his grass-shaped sword. What's more, the young man in front of him is only at the God King level. However, what he had not expected was that at the moment the sword light fell, something strange happened. The sky was filled with golden light, and there, a terrifying dragon elephant stood with its feet on the stars, swallowing up the mountains and rivers, looking down at everything in the world. Just a wisp of breath caused the heaven and earth to shake, the grass and trees to tremble, and the entire wilderness to fall into shaking. Even after the pressure subsided, the four-leaf sword grass, standing tall in the center of the arena, seemed a little unstable. Xiang Kunlun's eyes widened instantly. What did he see? Golden energy and blood instantly burst out from Nangong Chen's body, rushing straight into the sky, shining brightly, making the man in white clothes look like a god. At the same time, everyone saw a terrifying being in white clothes descend into the world during this ordinary punch. They could not describe its true appearance, and the divine power that came towards them made them tremble uncontrollably. In an instant, the green sword light was shattered by Nangong Chen's punch, and even the residual power did not diminish, and the terrifying power spread behind him. Just heard a click. Everyone looked up and saw that countless cracks had appeared on the body of the huge four-leaf sword grass at some point in time, and green light was overflowing from its body. The next moment, the four-leaf sword grass actually shattered. Xiang Kunlun let out a shrill scream, and his Dharma image was shattered. The soul-tearing pain was enough to make anyone collapse mentally. At the same time, his cultivation level also fell from the peak of quasi-saint to the late stage of quasi-saint. Yang Zhen, help me! He roared, his eyes bloodshot. Even if he won the championship of the wilderness competition, he would no longer be able to become a saint. Who knows when the next time would be? In order to ruin his future, he will definitely make Nangong Chen pay the price. The whole audience was speechless. No one expected that the man with double pupils could actually do it, and even shattered Kunlun's Dharma image with one punch. They dared not imagine what kind of terrifying divine power could make the usually arrogant Xiang Kunlun scream so miserably and even seek help from others. Is this still Xiang Kunlun, the number one person under the saint they know? For a moment, those powerful people who were once of the same generation as Xiang Kunlun fell into silence. Friend Xiang, I'm here to help you. And at this moment, a cold voice sounded. I saw Yang Zhen coming up to the central arena at some point. Yang Zhen was dressed in purple, with an imposing demeanor and a gloomy expression. He no longer had the calmness he had at the beginning. His eyes were filled with fear as he glanced at Nangong Chen. No one had expected that the biggest threat to them in this wilderness competition would be this youngster at the God King level. This sudden appearance of a dark horse caught both him and Xiang Kunlun off guard. If they had known this earlier, they should have joined forces from the beginning to deal with a person with double pupils. Very good. One with double pupils. I never thought it would be you who would become the biggest obstacle on our path to becoming a saint. Yang Zhen said in a deep voice. Xiang Kunlun, who was standing aside, took a pill and his breathing gradually calmed down. He was furious as thunder and looked at Nangong Chen with eyes full of hostility, wishing he could tear him into pieces. But for a wild competition, he sacrificed his own path to becoming a saint and even wasted his only holy pill. Brother Yang, my sainthood is hopeless. As long as you can agree to join forces with me to kill this brat, I will definitely protect you and make you the champion of this wilderness competition. Xiang Kunlun's face was gloomy, and he only wanted revenge. Yang Zhen ignored him and looked at the man with double pupils, examining him carefully. He was observing how much of the other person's strength was left, but he was disappointed. There was nothing wrong with the boy's expression, blood, or spiritual energy. Roadblock. After hearing this, Nangong Chen felt like laughing, and then he said lightly, if you're not good at it, practice more. After saying so much and finding so many excuses, it's still just one word, dish. As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of everyone present suddenly became interesting. They all turned red and laughed wildly. I originally thought that the man with double pupils was only mean to Xiang Kunlun, but I didn't expect that he treated everyone equally. Chapter 406. Practice more, 1 against 2. On the ring, Yang Zhen's face was dazed, and he seemed to have not reacted yet. After a few breaths, Yang Zhen's eyes turned cold, his fingers clenched, and his breathing became rapid. He had never been insulted like this in his life. If you're not good at it, practice more. Okay, I want to see how strong you are. Yang Zhen was angry in his heart, but on the surface, he still looked unmoved. Even if he wanted to kill the other person, he couldn't show it openly. He was not stupid and knew that if he really killed the person with double pupils, he would probably not survive. The best way is to let Xiang Kunlun kill him accidentally and eliminate these two people at the same time. In this way, he will not be blamed, and he can also break through to the saint level. Nangong Chen glanced at him and felt a little emotional when he saw his expression. He is really patient, but he is also a little curious about what the other party's purpose is. However, the next moment, Yang Zhen took action and rushed towards Nangong Chen without any warning. Black thunder appeared in his palm, making a crackling sound. He stretched out his hand at an extremely fast speed, trying to cover Nangong Chen directly with the black thunder. This is a heart-destroying thunder, not just any ordinary lightning. If it attaches to the surface of a human body, it can corrode all of the internal organs and cannot be eliminated. Anyone who is contaminated by it will surely die. Yang Zhen's attack was a killing move, not giving Nangong Chen any chance to breathe. Seeing Yang Zhen take action, the cultivators from the 3 states present all put away their smiles and looked solemn. Oh no, Yang Zhen and Xiang Kunlun have really joined forces. Now it's difficult for people with double pupils. At this moment, everyone present had different feelings. Some people cursed loudly, thinking that Yang Zhen and Xiang Kunlun were extremely shameless and actually joined forces to deal with the junior. Some people also expressed their understanding. After all, Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen both came here to break through. Now that an obstacle suddenly appeared, they naturally had to deal with the other party first. Besides, this was within the rules, it was just a bit dirty. On the Black Wind clan side, Heidi immediately breathed a sigh of relief, patted Tuha on the shoulder, and sighed, "It's a good thing you let Yangzhen go up, otherwise the Wooling clan would have succeeded today." He just couldn't believe it. 2 against 1, they couldn't beat a young god king. He also nodded, still a little frightened. Yes, this boy's evilness is unheard of. These 2 people even suggested that the Feather Clan's foreign aid take action to encircle and suppress Nangong Chen together, which made Lan Linchuan very angry. "You shameless villains are ruining our reputation." Lan Linchuan pointed at them and cursed loudly, not at all as calm as usual. Other members of the Wuling tribe also expressed indignation. Fortunately, Yu Qiong rejected the proposals of Heidi and Tuha. She said calmly, "The Yu clan has always been a people who do not fight or compete with others. You 2 don't need to waste your breath here." At the same time, she also sent a message to Su Rue on the stage, asking him to help the young man if necessary. After seeing this, the Wuling clan and the others were relieved. Fortunately, the Yu clan's foreign aid was not provoked, otherwise, that little brother would have to face 3 powerful enemies. They simply couldn't even imagine it. However, even though there are 2 people on the ring now, they are still worried and dare not slack off in the slightest. Heart-destroying thunder? The moment the other party attacked, Nangong Chen clearly saw the black lightning in Yang Zhen's hand, and his eyes suddenly turned cold. It seems that the other party really wants him to die. In that case, there is no need for him to hold back. Swish! A terrifying glint burst out without warning, tearing through the void and bringing unspeakable oppression to people. The next moment, a scream was heard. Yang Zhen's right hand, which contained the heart-destroying thunder, was torn to pieces by that terrifying gaze, and blood was dripping everywhere. Nangong Chen did not give him a chance. He activated the secret of movement and instantly came in front of Yang Zhen and punched him. Yang Zhen's pupils suddenly shrank, and before he could see clearly, he felt a huge force erupting in his abdomen. Boom! He immediately fell down and smashed heavily into the depths of the ancient tree, causing thick smoke to rise. When everyone saw this, they were shocked and couldn't react at all. 1 against 2, and still having the upper hand. "Can you play?" After they realized what was happening, they all started to mock Nangong Chen back. When they learned that these 2 famous strong men had joined forces to deal with a genius, their image had already collapsed in their hearts. "Take action!" A weak voice sounded quietly from under the ancient tree. Everyone's expression changed slightly, and the next moment, they saw Xiang Kunlun suddenly attack, coming in front of Nangong Chen and slashing down with a broken sword. Nangong Chen remained calm, stretched out his hand slightly, pressed 2 fingers against the tip of the sword, and then suddenly exerted force. With a snap, the broken sword shattered on the spot. Just when Xiang Kunlun was powerless to save the situation, who would have thought that Xiang Kunlun's expression only changed slightly, and then he opened his mouth, and a flash of sword light suddenly burst out. Nangong Chen was unable to dodge, and the sword light actually penetrated directly into his body. Seeing this scene, Xiang Kunlun laughed as if his conspiracy had succeeded. "Ha! It's no wonder that before I left the mountain, I specially kept a heart-severing sword in my mouth. This is a soul-killing technique. Even the soul of a saint can be cut off with 1 sword. Those with double pupils, prepare to die." He laughed heartily, releasing all the frustration he had felt before. "No matter how evil you are, when you meet me, you still have to behave yourself." He just didn't believe that the other party had any chance of surviving this sword attack. At this moment, all the people watching the battle couldn't help but stand up, their eyes filled with shock. They had never expected that despite the advantage of the person with double pupils, Xiang Kunlun could still unleash such a terrifying killing move. The point is, no one can guard against the sword hidden in the mouth. For a moment, everyone's faces became worried. Is there still hope for those with double pupils? Some women whispered that they didn't want such a stunning genius to die like this. A strong man present shook his head, his eyes full of regret, and said in a deep voice, "If we had kept some distance with the reaction speed of a person with double pupils, we might have been able to dodge it, but this is too close." The heartbreaking sword has already entered his body. Before long, he will become a corpse. After he finished speaking, the whole audience fell into silence. They looked incredulous, and then gradually turned pale and powerless. He is the hope of our Xintian territory. Not long ago, he was over Chu City, saving hundreds of millions of people from disaster. Now, we have to watch him die in front of us. That Xiang Kunlun was too ruthless. Yeah, it's just a wild competition. To save your own face, you use such a sinister killing move on a junior. How shameless. Some people had misty eyes, some were confused, and some even cursed at Xiang Kunlun. The scene of the person with double pupils obtaining the 9-star qualification in the immortal treasury that day, shocking all races, seemed to be still vivid in his mind. No matter what, they don't want such an amazing junior, or such an outstanding peer, to die in such an unclear way. The members of the Menghuang family present had complicated expressions. Their eyes flickered, and their minds were filled with different thoughts. The willing people and others opened their eyes wide. They were unwilling to believe that such an amazing existence would die here. Lan Mo's face turned pale all of a sudden. He had seen the horror of the divine dynasty. If the other party really died, no one alive today would be spared. Zhu Ying frowned slightly. Even though she didn't believe that Nangong Chen would fall into such a trap, she still couldn't help but clench her hands and was extremely nervous. Not far away, Yu Qiong's mature and beautiful face also showed a hint of regret, but soon she became a little worried. The other party's background is so terrifying. If he dies here, I wonder if the Feather Clan will be implicated. On the other side, Heidi and Tuha looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. That boy really died just like that. Soon, both of them showed a look of deep joy at the same time. It's a good thing they died. Now, they don't have to worry about the Menghuang tribe snatching their championship this time. As for what retribution that little beast would get if he died like this, they could only laugh. After all, they weren't the ones who killed him, so it wasn't their job to worry about it. Chapter 407. The Emperor's Heart Sutra shows its power, beheading Xiang Kunlun. On the ring, when Xiang Kunlun saw that the young man in front of him had no reaction, he nodded slightly, turned around, and faced the monks around him. Then, a hint of dissatisfaction appeared on his face. Obviously, he had heard these people pointing fingers at him just now. A saint should not be insulted. Just watch. This is the fate of insulting me. Even if you were the famous prince of the divine dynasty, I will kill you without hesitation. Not only did Xiang Kunlun not show any remorse, he also took advantage of this opportunity to show off his superiority. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's faces became more dissatisfied. You are worthy of calling yourself a saint, yet you resort to such a sinister trick against a junior. You are truly shameless, someone said coldly. Xiang Kunlun sneered and said shamelessly, so what? Success takes glory, failure takes place. History will only remember the victor. After I become a saint, who will remember how I won? Oh, really? At this moment, a cold voice sounded in Xiang Kunlun's ears. Xiang Kunlun shuddered suddenly. His whole body felt cold, as if he was being stared at by an evil spirit from the abyss. The next moment, there was a hissing sound. Xiang Kunlun's pupils shrank slightly. He lowered his head in a daze, and his face instantly lost color. Where's my heart? At some unknown time, a bloody hole appeared in Xiang Kunlun's body, which was shocking and full of blood. And inside it, the vital heart had already been pierced through by a ray of light and turned into ashes. Even his soul was crushed on the spot by the domineering imperial dragon energy in an instant. Then, with the last bit of his strength, Xiang Kunlun slowly turned his head and looked at the calm and composed figure in the snow-covered clothes, his eyes full of disbelief, as if he had seen a ghost. Aren't you dead? He was dying, and before he could finish his words, he fell to the ground with a thud. Until the last moment of his death, his eyes were still full of confusion. Coincidentally, Yang Zhen, who just climbed out of the deep pit, witnessed the whole process with his own eyes. His face, covered in mud, was full of shock. Nangong Chen had a calm expression, his snow-white clothes spotless. He looked at Xiang Kunlun's body and raised his hand slightly. The next moment, the two amber-like tokens flew up and fell into Nangong Chen's hands. Death? He wanted to kill his own soul with just a low-level, soul-killing technique. It was really a foolish dream. The moment the opponent attacked, the human Emperor Heart Sutra in his body automatically started to work, protecting his soul effortlessly. It can even be said that the opponent's heart-destroying sword did not even have the qualifications to see his soul. The moment it entered his body, it was strangled to death on the spot by the human Emperor's chi. As for why he didn't just attack directly, it was just because he was enjoying the clown's grand performance. Nangong Chen thought silently in his heart and shook his head slightly. If Xiang Kunlun knew what Nangong Chen was thinking, he would probably explode with anger on the spot. His carefully prepared killing move turned out to be nothing more than a harmless performance in the eyes of his opponent. At this moment, everyone present was speechless, staring blankly at the scene on the ring. No one expected that Xiang Kunlun, the number one person under the quasi-saint, would die so suddenly. Even under Kunlun's carefully prepared killing move, the man with double pupils was unharmed and still looked energetic, as if nothing had happened. You know, that is the heart-destroying sword. At such a close distance, even a saint would die on the spot. And he has to be a person with double pupils. After a few breaths, someone sighed, his eyes filled with horror. The young monks present looked at the figure in snow-white clothes with fiery eyes full of admiration. Impossible, impossible. On the Black Wind Clan's side, Hyde's pupils shrank slightly and his face turned pale. He still couldn't believe that Xiang Kunlun had died just like that. But it was not until Nangong Chen put the 2 keys of the wilderness into his pocket that he slowly came to his senses and slumped in the chair somewhat powerlessly. Beside him, He Sheng and other clansmen were silent, their faces looking extremely bad. On the other side, Tuha widened his eyes as if he had seen it wrong. He rubbed his eyes several times and then looked shocked. Yu Qiong was not in a much better condition either. A hint of surprise appeared on her mature and charming face, and then her beautiful eyes unconsciously stared at Nangong Chen. It's really unexpected. Only the Wuling clan, the entire clan, was overjoyed and extremely excited at this moment. Lan Linchuan slammed his fist on the chair, his eyes excited. Okay. Seeing that the key to the wilderness, which belonged to the Wuling clan, had finally returned to their hands, his mood at this moment was simply indescribable. Even the Black Wind clan's key to the wilderness was obtained by their external aid. This made him feel like he was dreaming. It was too dreamy. Lan Emo also burst into tears. He was right. He did not make the wrong choice. He brought Nangong Chen back and proved himself that change was the right thing to do. Even Lan Xian's eyes were misty, and she wiped the corners of her eyes. One could imagine how long they had been waiting for this day. Not far away, Zhuing breathed a sigh of relief, her beautiful eyes shining brightly. She just knew that her master would be fine. Yu Russian was used to it. After all, if people with double pupils were really so easy to kill, he would have died countless times. However, what shocked him was Nangong Chen's strength. Without summoning the law of heaven and earth, he was already able to crush the peak of quasi-saint. He didn't dare to think about how terrifying it would be if the other party really summoned the law of heaven and earth. At the same time, on the ring, Yang Zhen climbed up tremblingly, and only after seeing Xiang Kunlun's cold body did he realize that Xiang Kunlun was really dead. The person whom he considered to be the strongest competitor before the competition died, just like that, at the hands of a genius of the younger generation. At this moment, he, who had never suffered a loss in front of others, wanted to retreat for the first time. The young man's methods were so terrifying that even he found it extremely difficult to deal with. If he wasn't careful, he might die here. He was really scared. Yang Zhen took a deep breath and wanted to leave while Nangong Chen was not paying attention. But the next moment, those cold eyes were instantly locked on him.